All right. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, guys? What's going on,
Hey,
everyone?
how's it
Hope you're
going?
doing well. Welcome. You guys hear me loud and clear? You guys got good audio on my side?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, good audio.
All right, great. Good to hear, man. Oh, thank you guys for being on, guys, taking the time tonight to be able to get on stream with me, and it means a lot. I know you guys got a lot to do with the launch of Diamond Hands and everything, so it's always a pleasure to have you guys here. Just kind of wanted to have you guys introduce yourselves for anybody who maybe might be new. Maybe they don't know them. Maybe they don't know about you guys just yet. But if you guys want to go ahead and just give yourselves a quick introduction.
Yeah. So my name's Stan, aka Dip Catcher on Twitter. And
Dip Catcher.
dude, I've been on stream too.
Oh,
No, aka GoldKey on Twitter. That's Dip Catcher. And I'm one of the founders. Well, we're both the founders of MaximusDAO. We've been working on startups together for about 7 years now, and Maximus is kind of us moving into the DeFi crypto space. So yeah, I've been designing products now for about 6 years, and yeah, we've known each other since we were childhood friends. We started playing football together in 5th grade. Best friends through high school. We kind of went different ways, and then started right out of college. We started launching startups and been having fun ever since.
That's awesome, man. I mean, this is my first time meeting you guys too, so it's cool to hear all this stuff as well.
Absolutely, man.
And Dip Catcher, bro, if you can introduce yourself as well, bro, please.
Yeah. I'm Dip Catcher on Twitter. Tonto Nominai. I've
That's
been,
how you pronounce it. Okay.
Yeah. like you said, we've been building startups. Have like a background in engineering, and I've just been doing full stack web stuff for years now, and got into Hex because in our first startup, we actually got funding from a crypto company, and so we were getting paid in this obscure token called Simple Token, and so I had to figure out how to just like manage that, because that was like most of our money at that time. And so I started listening to Richard Hart's YouTube videos to kind of learn, and so just kind of along for the ride. And that was in like 2017, and then so as Hex was getting closer to launch, I was, getting ready for that. And so just kind of been plugged into the Richard Hart universe since back then. And then since Hex launched, I built a couple just different web products that just try to help, Hex investors. So one is this like Dip Catcher email alert system where you can get emails whenever there's a good price. Also built like a trading terminal at hex.cash. Built a Twitter bot. It's the max length stake bot. So I've just kind of built, a handful of these things. And then I'd say Maximus is probably like the biggest thing that we've built in the Hex space. And yeah, so it's been quite the ride these last 2.5 years in Hexico.
Nah, it's
Yep,
great, bro.
Puello,
I mean, yeah,
I'd love to hear.
huge.
I'd love to
Talk
hear
to me,
how
bro.
you got into crypto as well, man. Like, what's your story?
Yeah, bro, of course. Well, my name's Kevin Puello, bro. It's my last name. Most people don't know that.
Okay.
Puello is actually my last name. I got into crypto back in 2017, bro. I was involved with a network marketing company called IM Academy. And a buddy of mine was like, bro, look into this Bitcoin thing, da-da-da-da-da. And, one thing led to another. 4 years, I learned how to trade. I became like a cryptocurrency investor little by little. And, eventually the network marketing kind of side of me like faded. It was really cool. It was something that opened me up into personal self-development. And that was like a really great phase in my life that helped me a lot. But ultimately I stuck with cryptocurrency, and, pretty much now fast forward 2022, I've been able to, have found Hex. Thankfully I was already learning from people very early on, like about Bitcoin and blockchain and stuff like that. And now I just pretty much educate people in the space, and I teach people how to invest what I would say professionally. I view it as a profession. I think if you treat it like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. If you treat it like a profession, it'll pay you like a profession. So it's one of those things where I take it really serious, and I tell people like, look, man, it's an industry that it can retire you. It can change your life for the better. You just have to take it serious. So that's what I've dedicated most of my time to doing. And thankfully, one of those projects has been Maximus. What you guys have been creating has honestly, as an individual, helped me a lot, and it's helped a lot of my students as well. And so I wanted to have you guys on because, you all have a unique perspective. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like I ask some good engaging questions, I guess you guys think. And so
Love it.
hopefully we
Yeah,
can get
no,
some of those
seriously.
questions going tonight.
Yeah, and thank you for all the time and energy you spent on videos about Maximus. They're one of the best out there. So and it's just like so early on, right? And like you're definitely a leader in this community, and so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, bro, and thank you guys for what you do, because you guys do the hard end. I just relayed the message. You guys are the source. I'm the resource. But yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I didn't want to talk too much about what Maximus is and all this stuff. I feel like people know that already. I want to talk about what's hot right now and this whole merge thing going on. I mean, we have so many great opportunities happening. I mean, Diamond Hands is about to get launched. I know, Dip Catcher's working on it. He's going full throttle. Hasn't left. He's been on stream pretty much the whole day, bro. So sorry to keep you on a computer any much longer.
Oh no, dude, this is what I'd be doing anyways.
That's cool, bro. And yeah, man. I mean, you're working on that, and with the whole merge stuff. I honestly, bro, I didn't even think that we would get another set of tokens today. Like, I woke up this morning not expecting much. I fell asleep last night on your stream, Dip Catcher, and I woke up this morning and we're looking into this whole proof of this ETH POW thing and all these new tokens that we have in a potential blockchain that might or might not work at the time. Like, it was like maybe mid-noon over here Eastern Standard Time, and you weren't even able to get on the mainnet. But eventually it came up, and then all these conversations started happening, and it's been pretty exciting, man, the way that everything's been developing. But I want to kind of see where you guys are at so far. How's Maximus doing with the development of ETH POW now being able to by people all over the world?
Yeah, I mean, so it's pretty cool that this happened like midway through our 21-day launch phase, because about 10 days ago on the 5th is when we launched Maximus Team and the Perpetuals. And so for people that are new just listening now, so the Perpetuals are these new stake pools. We have Base, which is 1 year, Trio is 3 years, Lucky is 7 year, and then Desi is a 10-year pool. And then those provide a lot of benefits like increased earnings on a HEX stake, and then also massive gas savings. And then also you can trade those tokens at any time. So a lot of benefits for users. And then in addition to that, we have Team, which is like the MaximusDAO team member token. And Team earns a little bit of yield from all these pools. And it's really like the growth engine for HEX through these stake pools. So Team's incentivized to try to grow these stake pools. And so we kind of have this, whole MaximusDAO ecosystem building up. And we, there's about 10 days left in the launch. And yeah, and so far we have about 150 million HEX pooled into these 4 pools. And the team has something like 40 million. Team has been minted. We can mint Team 1-to-1 with Maxi. Maxi was our original stake pool that we launched back in April. And so it's been been pretty exciting. Just kind of everyone getting involved in all that stuff. And then with the whole merge thing, that was just kind of like sprung upon us. It's like I first started like tweeting about the merge about a month ago. I was saying how it's in addition to Pulse Chain and then like the ETH POS chain, and now we have this like ETH POW chain. Like, there's some opportunity there that I feel that comes about from this like trilateral chain environment that we can kind of form. And so I think there's there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that of all types of DeFi, that HEX is kind of suited to kind of adopt that. And so I'm pretty excited. And then today when I saw you were tweeting about, we did the whole thing yesterday, and then I didn't know that there was, I didn't even know how to connect yesterday. And then I saw you tweeting about it, and then Johnny Chaos showed that he was able to connect. And then I just get on this like ETHPOW Twitter chat today, and then someone sends me the link to the like RPCs, and then all I had to do was just like add the network ID to the dApps, and they just worked. So, so it is, we are like, we do recommend that people be very careful, like, because who knows what types of, what could go wrong on this.
There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong. You're 100% right. Like, I think more than just being curious and like getting in there and connecting your wallet to stuff, you got to definitely take a quick second to just, you know, gauge the situation, understand that there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. You know, just as much as things are going right, you know, we're happy for that. But yeah, you're definitely right to be able to warn new people in the community for sure. I mean, you guys are definitely making everything super legit. You guys have been dropping links all day, which has been super appreciative. Which I'm super appreciative for. And yeah, I actually wanted to just kind of show real quick my screen because I mean, Maxi's doing absolutely great. The DAO, well, the team better said, the perps are doing pretty great. As far as like expectations go, I mean, I'm sure you guys came into this no expectations, but how do you guys feel like the project is doing? What do you guys think is going to, do you guys have any projections? I know you maybe don't want to cap it at anything, but what do you guys think?
Yeah.
How's it going on based on your standards?
I think it's going really well. You know, they're really going from a, like with Maxi was a 14-day to a 21-day. We've definitely been, you know, learning like what the first 7 days of a 21-day launch looks like, and also just launching 5 products at once is like definitely pushing the bounds of like what's possible. But so far, you know, we're about to cross 150 million hex, you know, in total. Desi's crushing it, 86 million. Base and Trio have been going back and forth, but they're both over 20 million now. And Lucky's at 18. So, and then teams definitely, the first, you know, this first period for team minting, I think blown out like the expectations on my part, just like what I thought would happen in the first 7 days. But looking back on the Maxi launch, the last 7 days were the craziest. So that second half was really when people were hopping in, the FOMO kicked in.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, you know, also with like a lot of whales with these like rolling stakes, they might be, you know, staking their hex to the very point of, you know, the very last couple of days so that they get more yield and then hop in. So I'm very excited for this last leg of launch. But again, you know, it's hard to say. Obviously, our goal is 600 million across all pools. So we're shooting high, and you know, we'll see what plays out. But I think one thing too, with that bigger pays better bonus is like even for base, the bigger pays better bonus kind of pales in comparison to the longer pays better bonus. I think for base, what is it, Dip Catcher, like twice? Is it 20% for base?
Yeah.
Or,
so like a 1 year stake gets
20%.
like the longer pays better bonus on a 1 year stake is equal to the maxed out bigger pays better bonus. And yeah, so you know the bigger pays better kind of is a small portion, but you know, but it does. And what a lot of people get wrong about the bigger pays better is they think it only kicks in at 150 million, but it you know it applies even, you know, at much smaller numbers, and so it's like right now it's like out of the max 10% possible, it's like at what would that be, like 1.3, like 1.3% bigger pays better bonus with base, for instance, like right there. And whereas with Desi being, you know, over half, it's like you know, over 5% bigger pays better. And so, yeah. And, you know, and I think that what we're really seeing here with across the pools is just like, what surprises me is that I thought that it would be like ordered from greatest to least, from longest to shortest. And it is kind of surprising that Lucky is you know the smallest pool right now, which is kind of odd, you know.
I agree. I think Desi's crushing. I mean, I expected Desi to crush it for the most part. You know, it's the highest APY earning pool that there is. Most people that probably missed out on Maxi wanted to definitely get in on Desi for sure. And yeah, Lucky not being much higher. I mean, it's kind of funny to see, but regardless, I think all of them, people have their reasons. I think you guys have given out some really good tips as far as like, you know, why base is a really popular one. Is like a really popular like a pool. And you know, the team right now, I mean, 39 million team already being staked. I mean, that's a ton of Maxi that's already been burned. 7.85 million Maxi. I'm sure the Maximus DAO holders or Maximus holders are pretty happy right now. I'm happy right now for sure seeing that. And yeah, and I mean, we're just pretty much waiting on that 369 rebate. We gotta wait those 369 years. And guys, do you have any anything you can share about that mystery box? Anything you can drop tonight? Anything you can give us in regards to that mystery box? You guys are holding tight.
I mean, it is a mystery, so you know what do you think is gonna happen? Like, what's
What do
your
I think is gonna happen
yeah?
with the mystery
What's
box?
your what clues have you picked up on the mystery? Like, what would you do if you were the mystery box?
What would I do, bro? Honestly, man, I don't be making protocols like that, so I can't make a call like this right now. But I will tell you this, right? Like, I mean, it's a ton of money that you guys got in there. It's a ton of coins. And I know as the years go on, it's something that could honestly, like, it could go hand in hand with like the launch of something new. You know, I kind of see the way that Richard, or you know, the OA played Pulse X, and you know, moving all those hex tokens over to you know, to the sacrifice address, and you know, just amplifying what they already had in that bag. And so you know, a move like that in the future with another project, maybe something you guys release or something like that, I think that would be absolutely bonkers, because it adds to the capital, and also it adds to security. You know, we talk a lot about how you know, centralized isn't a bad thing, right? That the more that, you know, you hold, or the owners hold, personally, I think is a good thing, because you essentially have a little bit more control over the system, and it also allows you to, you know, kind of like do things that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Like, for example, holding a lot of assets, and having those assets, you know, not sell off at all, right? Like, we know that the OA to a certain point isn't going to sell off any of those assets, which is going to hold price up. So should we even include them in supply, right? In circulating supply. So it's a lot of things like that, I mean, you know, if the mystery box has a lot of maxi, it also has a lot of buying power for a sacrifice in the future, based on how much value it is, if you know, a sacrifice were to hold or to take maxi tokens. So I mean, I don't know, there's a lot that plays into that, but I'm really excited for what that could be. I mean, I'm not going to give anything away, I don't know, but
See, what I think may be even more interesting than the mystery box is that, like, when Maxi started, the supply distribution was so even across the board. Like, I think the largest minter was only like 3 or 4 million Maxi, and it was just so evenly distributed
No,
from
it was
like the
like
largest
10.
holders to the smallest. So, well, no, the person only got to 10 after buying.
Okay, yeah, it was. I think it was 5, and then they bought another 5.
Yeah. So, like, there have been a couple waves of like centralization in the Maxi supply, and then in the last month, between the Icosa launch, where part of that whole Watsa thing was Maxi accumulated in the Hedron deployer, and then now with, you know, with this launch, there's kind of been this like consolidation of the Maxi, and you know, almost in quantities that are like almost too large to sell. And so, for as far as like all the other people, like, if you know, disregard the you know, those coins, you know, just because it's like, you know, most users could sell their whole bag like nothing, but you know, those two large holders really can't, and it's only becoming more rare with that 369 escrow and then the burn. And so, like, in the last couple of weeks, the like effectively saleable maxi supply has gotten really scarce. And so that's been pretty interesting to see how just kind of like this consolidation has happened. And it was pretty, I think, kind of validating that like another coin was, through their launch mechanism, was like included maxi in that. You know, and so there's a lot, you know, and that's kind of the big question is what does the Hedron deployer do with their maxi? Do they dump the price and give everyone a great deal to kind of run back the premium? Do they mint a bunch of team? You know, do they use the maxi to like try to inject value into their own ecosystem? Like, there's a lot that can happen, and it's pretty exciting to just see play out, and we'll see what happens over the next couple
definitely
weeks.
breaking new ground here. I mean, this is brand new stuff to everybody, but it's cool to see the ideas being pushed around, and what can possibly happen. I see we have a couple questions in the chat. If you guys want to go ahead and answer, they say, any ideas for people who got heavy into maxi and what move they might want to make now? This one's from Swearworks.
So, you know, obviously everything is totally your choice. It's impossible to predict what the best move is. You just got to look within and follow your gut. You know, team is like, one way to look at it is to look at the team dashboard and see what other people kind of in your same ballpark size have done. So we've seen a lot of, you know, like the two largest maxi minters, or largest team minters, have 2 million. They minted 2 million maxi each. One of them holds on to another 2.5 million maxi. The other one had gone all in. And so, you know, some users are going all in on team. Other users are, holding off Maxi, minting, cutting. Like there's a lot of people just splitting between Team and Maxi. That's also, a good solution. It's truly your choice. Kind of the way that to compare the two is that Maxi is basically like the largest possible earning hex stake you could hold. But it only earns for 15 years. Whereas Team, the earnings are, uncapped because the Maxi earnings are capped by the T shares that it already has. The Team earnings, they're capped by these pools, and the first year is probably going to be the smallest payout year in Team, just because as these pools grow, potentially more pools happen in the future, and so the Team kind of has these it's higher risk, but it also has this kind of like uncapped earning potential, whereas Maxi earns at a really high rate for 15 years and then it's done. And so that's kind of the trade-off you have to consider. There's no, obviously this isn't financial advice at all. And I feel like I just didn't even give any, I just suggested you can either do all in, half, or none, I guess. But, either way, you're in a good spot. What would you say, GoldKey?
I think if you minted Maxi, and you just understand like what's going on with the burn, and just looking at the price, like the best move is honestly to buy more Maxi. And of course I'm gonna say that, right? But truly, like, such a crazy, like, the people that minted Maxi in Hex, they're up to like 120% right now in Hex terms. But the price of Hex is down, so you can now get Maxi at a cheaper rate than the people did that minted, right? So everyone is winning right now, and honestly, the best play is to buy Maxi right now because it is at a discount, and to, I know a lot of people have probably used the Maxi that they use or that they minted, and that's a fair move as well. But I think for people that are wondering, do I want to give up my Maxi? The best move would be to buy more if you can. But again, it's like, it's so crazy, and I'm like, I love that we've done this, but we've created two assets that are like so much potential in the future that it is a very hard decision, and it was by design, right? Like with Team, the more you own of that pool, the more you earn. And so if you're a team staker, you want that to be a hard decision for people. And so everyone's making that same decision, right? And it is hard by design, but really it's like you can't go wrong with either, So if you,
I
definitely agree, man. I definitely agree.
Yeah, because Team is probably higher risk, higher reward potential. Because Maxi is basically just the hex price times the earnings, and Team is potentially
it's
infinite
amplified.
earning.
It's whatever people think it is. It's a deflationary asset. I mean, there's so many mechanics that go into it, and ultimately it becomes more speculative, right? That stickiness is there, and people are gonna feel like, based on how big these pools can get, because today we're talking millions, but at some point it can be billions of hexes sitting in these pools, considering that they're perpetual and every year they're resetting. More and more people are going to get their hands on these assets, and they're just going to keep growing. So I got some Team. I'm definitely a Team member for sure, and I'm excited for that because I'm biased. You guys are getting a biased opinion here, anybody that's watching. But I will say this, right? Like, there's so many things that you can do. Ultimately, though, do whatever makes sense for you. Like, you guys got to get on these streams and you got to learn as much as you can, because no one's going to tell you what to do with your money ultimately, right? Like, if you need to sell, you're going to sell. If you're going to buy, you're going to buy. But just know that I think no matter what you're thinking, things are so cheap relative to where we're going. Totally. And so if you just buy and hold, man, follow the strategy, buy and hold, build a plan, and find a way to cash flow. I call the community cash flow amigos because, I think there's so many different industries in the world where you can cash flow, like in real estate, in stocks and whatnot. And I think crypto is one of those places where, people should say, hey, I cash flow off of my crypto investments. I generate yield. And, there's so many things out there now that are staking mechanisms that give you that opportunity. So, build your portfolio, guys. It's really powerful what this stuff is doing for us. Says, my bad. Let me just see what Hex says. You're good. And then I got you. My opinion is each perpetual will be filled with 1 billion. So Team is going to be the most desirable. All right, that's a pretty valid point. I agree with you there. I think team is definitely going to be desirable.
Let's go. Hex Love, pump the perpetuals, man. We need that. 1 billion.
And then Swearwork says, thanks for the insights, thinking through it. Appreciate what you built, guys. Yeah, definitely. And you were saying, bro?
Man, like I love that name, Cashflow Amigos, dude. Like you're literally in the perfect environment right now for cash flow. And just with with Maxi, it really wasn't a cash, like you could utilize it by just scraping, as the premium pumps, maybe you lock in gains along the way. But man, that's what I've been so excited about, this kind of elite staking ladder we've made with the perpetuals and team, is that like the premium, what I try to tell people is like the premium is not guaranteed in the future. And we've been kind of spoiled, honestly, in the first couple of months with Maxi and just how it's exploded. But you shouldn't have expectations that that's going to happen in the future. And there could be like years of, a discount, and you wouldn't be able to lock in the premium you're able to lock in right now. But with these pools, you're able to lock in cash flow at select periods of time, and you have the power. Like Maximus is really a self-empowerment movement, and you have the power to determine when you want to get paid. And unlike a typical staking ladder where it's like you set it and then that's the one time, it's more looking at it like, what periods do I want to earn? So for base, it's like every year. With Trio, it's every 3. With Lucky, it's every 7. Desi, every 10. Which, with Desi, it's like, that period it's still more of just long-term stake, but it could continue to earn for your kids, right? As long as the internet's
Definitely.
up. But like, I think that's why people are loving these shorter stakes, because it's like every year I could get paid in Hex, and then I have now 2 ways to amplify that yield with team and diamond hands. Like it's if you're into cash flow, it's like,
I think team definitely does stick to that name a little bit more. Like it's like having multiple properties almost, right?
Exactly.
Like that all generate you X amount of yield, and what you do with the rewards is 100% up to you, right? But ultimately, that's what it's all about, right? Like you're earning on it because you're essentially a part of the team, and you're sharing the good word, right? So no, it's absolutely amazing. And while we're on that topic, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can amplify those gains too. I know you guys just launched, or you're about to launch, Diamond Hands, which is a really exciting, addition to the MaximusDAO system. And my question to you guys is, well, I know for the most part, Dip Catcher, you've been working all day on this thing, bro, and I think you, if I'm not mistaken, you went ahead and you secured the penalties on the end staking. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, today we finalized what those penalties would be, and basically it's based on the length of the stake. So for the short stake, it's 36.9%, but for the Desi stake, the early unlock penalty is only 3.69%. And so because we figured that the longer the stake is, probably the more people that would early unlock. And so the more people that do early unlock, the higher that it could be. And so it's it's kind of nice and inviting. It's actually the same penalty as the team staking. And then base is much higher. And that's because, if you're committing to a year, it's only a year. And so early unlocking in that year, it's, so, and on it is such, and we were talking about this on the stream, it's such a hard thing to even set, because like, how can you possibly predict what people are going to do?
Yeah,
so,
I saw you going back and forth. You were really going at it.
Yeah. And so that's, we're interested to see kind of how it plays out. And, we, and kind of regardless, it really does. It's beneficial to the people that are using these stake pools as just like an alternative to just staking on their own. So, and that's really kind of like the core user of these pools that we think is important. And so, we're interested to see kind of how it plays out, and perhaps we get a lot of people to just join the Desi pool, and then over time, maybe only half the people and actually stuck it out. And in that case, the earnings could be quite high because it was so inviting to end. Whereas like the shorter ones, it's like, it'd be a lot more gut wrenching to lose out on that. And so perhaps, you won't see as much early unlocking on that 1 year one. For sure. Especially because the Desi one, if the premium gets really high, then a lot of people may be early unlocking. So we can kind of tolerate the lower penalty on those ones.
One thing I haven't really heard a lot about is this was actually kind of what you just said. the fact that Diamond Hands is going to technically influence in a way, I think premiums, because if you don't have, like, if a lot of these assets aren't being sold into the market, technically it's stuff that's going to keep the premium price higher than if they were available and someone were able to sell them. So premiums should definitely get a nice little pump as well.
It's kind of
right?
It's kind of exactly how how HEX was designed. Was the people that are staking are getting rewarded because they support the HEX price, and that's essentially it's kind of funny. Like, we've really kind of broken HEX apart, and then we're offering it in a different way. What I love about with Diamond Hands is that it's just like completely optional, right? Like, it's not forced. You could still have liquid staking tokens and not be locked up. But for the people that, as Dip Catcher said, the people that are just using it for their staking, and a lot of people a lot of people love native solo staking for that kind of protect yourself from yourself narrative. And so we just kind of offered that too. And luckily it was, Dip Catcher could just use the same contract he did for team staking, and it just works. So it's awesome.
Nah, I love it, bro. And I kind of want to answer here what Hexlip had to say. He goes, "Can I get your opinions on the strategy? Go all in on Desi 1-to-1 to get a double, and cross my fingers and pray I can buy team after mint of a dip. Thoughts?" And then I see over here, he says, "Go all in on Desi, then half when premium goes 2-to-1, then buy team with half of Desi sold. Thoughts? Crazy brain game theory." I mean, bro, like, I'm gonna be very honest. There's so many things that can happen with either scenario, and it's something that, bro, it's either gonna, you're gonna look back at it and be like, damn, that was a great idea, or like, damn, I should have never done that. One thing I can tell you is holding always pays big. If the less you move things around, the better. So it's not financial advice once again, but holding always helps. So the closer you can get to like just buying something and holding it, I think that's going to be your best case scenario. Once you start doing too many trades and moving things around, it may not be the best idea compared to, just once again buying and holding. So, I mean, let me see. He goes, Puello, do you watch the Mexican named Max and broadcast on YouTube? His beard looks like yours. Go check it out. Nah, I don't watch him, but I will check him out for sure. Anybody with a good beard, I respect. You gotta get your beard game going, Dip. I see you there.
DC, get your beard. No, that's the best thing you do. That's the best thing you do.
You gotta get a beard. How do these people do it? They do, like, they grow their beards out for certain periods of time or whatnot. You should grow out your beard for an entire base. An entire base period.
Is redeemed.
He might need a trio or lucky stake period for that to grow out.
Man.
Dude, you got to get one of those rollers.
Yeah, they sell a bunch of products online for sure.
You need that.
I don't know if they work though. That's another question. Let's see. OXWIL goes, these EES penalties, for those of you who don't know, emergency end stake penalties are weak sauce compared to HEX emergency end stake penalties. So we should hear no complaints. Well, weren't you the person that said something about doing 100% penalty on people? I don't know if it was you, but there was someone saying that, 100% penalty. I'm like, man, that's savage.
Dude, people are definitely pushing for that. It was so funny.
Yeah, and then we have here Swearworks. He goes, how long is the launch period? I believe he's talking about the launch period for the perpetuals, right?
Yeah, it's a little under 11 days now. We just crossed 11 days starting at 5 so like 2 hours ago. So yeah, a little under 11 days to mint both the perpetuals and team. And if you're planning to stake team, you need to stake before that period ends too, because the team staking period starts right then. So
boom. And then let's see, we got Toby1, Hexobi. Yeah, these guys have great names. Has anyone tried to transfer USDC from ETHPOW to Coinbase, etc., to see if they can convert it to USD? I feel like that's the key element to determining if all this parity talk is really parity.
Toby, why are you trying to sell, man? Stay in it. Why are you trying to get out?
Yeah.
No, just kidding. I haven't heard of any bridges at all. Yep. So again, I think we were talking about it earlier on stream, but we're just having fun on ePower right now, and we're not definitely wouldn't advise anyone, not financial advice, but just play with your copies. I wouldn't advise anyone buying like from fiat, but
I mean, it wouldn't make sense if USDC, there's no reason why it would have any type of parity.
Yeah, because there's not the pulse chain bridge.
Yeah, it's like, well, because Coinbase is like the issuer of that,
Yeah.
and so like they why would they honor that copy? It's like, you know, they're clearly they're like the largest block producer now on the proof of stake chain.
Yeah.
Like, why would they support the ETH-POW USDC? You know, I mean, maybe they support the token, but they certainly wouldn't honor it. And you couldn't, you know, the ETH-POW is a different network than the Ethereum mainnet, and so if you tried to send your USDC, it would go to that address, but you know, it wouldn't be bundled in with like the regular USDC.
Yeah, it's a valid point, man. A lot of these companies and a lot of these things, they don't really have an incentive to want to even work with the new mainnet. So it's kind of interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I was saying that too, like probably just not doing anything and just being happy with what you have right now is great. And then, you know, if it becomes worth something in the future, is probably best to just, you know, hang tight. I don't even think we can put any type of financial energy into ETHW right now. So
it's just funny. At this point, it's just funny money, man. We're just playing with funny money right now. But it's so cool. Yeah. Like what we were talking about earlier is like, it's just like such a great test for what, you know, again, like Pulse Chain is going to be way more exciting, a lot more energy. But just the ability to like test what like a fork feels like, and even seeing people's reactions to it, like, oh, these coins are going to zero. Like, you know, it's not worth it. We're probably going to see a lot of those same comments when Pulse Chain launches, but for us, it was a great test to just see how quickly we could connect our products to this new chain, and it was really easy. So shout out Dip Catcher, like, you know, just making that happen.
It was great practice.
It was great practice. So we're gonna have Pulse Chain support instantly, pretty much. Now that we've had this experience.
No, and I think it's.
I just saw that Icosa added support, and so that's two of the kind of the big three in Hex. Hex.com hasn't added it yet. We added it this morning.
You think Richard's gonna add it?
I don't know. I mean, he's pretty pro airdrops and such.
Yeah.
And so I think he would.
Dude, I think you should just
like maybe only once it achieves some type of value threshold, because like maybe there's some risks that, you know, he isn't willing to tolerate.
Right.
You know, but yeah,
dang, you beat Alex to market on the EPOW support.
No, dude, you were on top of it.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I woke up, I saw you were tweeting about it. Johnny Chaos was tweeting about it, and then I just hopped on that Twitter space, and then
I forgot how I found out about it. I think it was on Twitter or something, or I was on Google, and I looked something up, and it said something about someone forking Ethereum, and I was like, wait, what? And then I kind of looked into it, but I thought it was like when I went into their Telegram, it was all Chinese or Japanese. I'm not sure what language it was, but it was like some type of Asian language, and I was just like, yeah, okay, this is either a scam or these guys are just you know, like they're really serious about this, because there was like thousands of people on Twitter already following an account and everything, and they had everything set up on a link tree. So you know, I was kind of curious that specifically if the system state was going to be copied, and I think that was like their big kind of like value proposition to the entire thing, that the system state was going to be copied and everything. And when I woke up this morning, I saw you know, Johnny, you know, talking about it and whatnot, and I'm gonna be real, bro. I mean, like Marco was tweeting in regards to it too, mentioning that, you know, this is great opportunity to see what can go wrong in these situations, right? Like what's going right, what's going wrong, how is it working out, how are people responding to it? I think things that add value to Richard. Richard's a really smart guy. I'm sure he's looking at this entire thing and looking at what he can do better. But I mean, we already know that, you know, PLS is coming in with so much more, and, you know, with a bridge already intact, and you can tell why he already thought about all these things beforehand, because look at us right now. We're here with funny money, literally sitting here. We can't even swap. We can't do anything, because there's none of these mechanisms are available for us to even put any money into the asset. So it's cool that he's already come, you know, launching Pulse Chain with all this stuff, and we're pretty much going to be set. Anybody that wants to get involved is going to be able to, you know, swap in or bridge in, better said, and get involved as quickly as possible. So that's exciting. And yeah, we were talking about Diamond Hands. So I mean, you guys have set up the percentages for the emergency end stake. I know you guys already kind of have, you know, the way that it works already set in stone, you know, in regards to how the rewards are going to be coming in through. So either through emergency end staking or um, through the what is it, airdrops, right? So airdrops from random holders, anybody that wants to give or gift some money
Yeah.
to the address. You know what? And you guys asked me what the mystery box was going to do. I hope the mystery box is a little generous as well, now that you guys mention it,
Yeah.
with that address. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. You guys have anything to say about that?
So one of the most innovative things we've built here is this really cool way to trustlessly airdrop coins to people. So like any whitelisted coins, we made a whitelist because if we didn't want, you know, malicious coins being sent to the contract and you know, wrecking our stakers or our community. So we did create a whitelist. But any tokens that get sent that are on that whitelist can be distributed trustlessly to stakers in a really easy way. So I think that, you know, that innovation came through team staking, and now we've applied it to the Diamond Hands game. And yeah, I don't know, that opens up some possibility for the mystery box to potentially airdrop some tokens to perpetuals if it wanted to, but no expectations there.
True. All right, interesting. I mean, I love it, man. I think Diamond Head is going to be a good addition, like we were saying. And I mean, overall, I mean, the entire ecosystem is really coming together. Um, you know, for the most part, I wanted to see, you know, what you guys kind of thought, other than, with the whole proof of work stuff coming along, like, Pulse Chain, how long it's taking. Is it like a concern for you guys? Are you guys, okay with it being having taken as long as it has, or how do you guys feel about Pulse Chain right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually quite thankful that it's taken us. Because if you think about it, our like the first launch with Maxi, it was, if you remember the like original like white paper and the website, it all said 30-day mint phase. But then we made the decision to cut that in half because we were worried that Pulse Chain was going to come out.
Because that was mid-May. That the stake started
we
mid-May.
wanted to get it all done. Yeah, we wanted to get it all done before, even though it really doesn't make a difference. The only difference would have been that people would have just had to do, mint their Maxi on ETH and then also just remint it on Pulse if they were in after that. But we wanted just the total supply to be equal across the two. And so it's funny because we were like in a rush to get it out for that. And then, now it's kind of, there are these delays. And what I think is probably going on with that is that it's got to just be harder than what they expected. And then also with like the changes that they're making for the like scalability. So that means faster blocks and larger blocks. It's like, there's a reason why ETH didn't do that. And so I think they're probably just like in the testing and auditing that they're doing, they're probably just beginning to, kind of run into some of these barriers that were preventing ETH from kind of doing some of those things. And so they probably have to be doing a lot more like invention and innovation than what they had like originally planned. And also, I guess that they're finding bugs that have existed in ETH or have existed in Binance Smart Chain for years. And so they're finding these things that, no one in the public had found, but when you're like auditing and trying to get your thing, if you have like, I think like a high standard of excellence, I think Richard's standard is much higher than, because like a lot of developers, they're fine rolling something out with bugs because they, like, okay, we'll just fix it later. But I think he kind of has a different standard there. So, I think they're just being really thorough and probably, the changes that they're trying to implement are just probably, it's like kind of like there's a reason why that wasn't the case before, and they're starting to find those reasons. And kind of as long as it, I was more urgent for Pulse Chain to launch when, like, because it's like a good solution for for fees in the short term. But now that we've kind of with these Maximus stake pools, we've kind of resolved a big portion of that high gas fee for staking. It doesn't solve it for swapping. It doesn't, we haven't solved that yet. But at least for like HEX stakers, which like, was the HEX stakers were the ones that were most impacted by that change last year in Ethereum that caused the HEX end stake fees to be 3 times as high suddenly. So it's like we've kind of countered that. It's like ETH increased the cost by 3x, and so we have now reduced the costs by like 99%. It's a function of the number of individuals in the pool. Like that's the gas fee impact that we're reducing per user. And so, it's like the urgency is, I think, a little bit less. Like I want Pulse Chain because the low gas fees, like I think that's kind of like a common denominator marketing pitch. But like the real opportunity in Pulse Chain is this like, the EVM, kind of how like Avalanche and Phantom were like that was like a big opportunity just because there's like demand for like these other kind of like off Ethereum, but similar chains. And
can you break down an EVM real quick? Like what the Ethereum virtual machine is and how that works, like in layman's terms?
Yeah. It's just the system that runs the smart contracts. So there's like the blockchain, and that's like, what keeps everything going. But then on top of the blockchain is that EVM, and the EVM is just like the system that when you're, staking HEX, it's like you're interacting with that EVM, or if you're doing DeFi stuff like Uniswap or, whatever, that's all on that EVM. And so other chains like the reason why you can just change a network setting in your MetaMask and then just use another network like Avalanche or Binance Smart Chain or Pulse Chain is because they're EVM compatible, and because it's like they run on a different blockchain, but then the part that the applications run on is the same. So so like I'm more eager for just like that, as like separate from the whole gas situation. I'm just more interested in just that as a good investment opportunity. Like, most chains that launch, they kind of have a hard time getting that initial critical mass. Whereas now Pulse Chain is a chain that's launching that has like a huge army behind it. And so,
yeah, there's a lot of projects right now launching behind it. And one of the ones that I'm kind of excited about too, that I think I'm going to talk to them. I believe if it's not tomorrow, maybe it's later on in the week. It's OX Coast. And it's hilarious because the OX Coast team, like everybody thought like they were like scammers when they came out with Wait Token until Post Police kind of like vetted them and stuff. But they talked a little bit about yesterday or like 2 days ago on Crypto Coffee Stream about coming out with a fiat on ramp and off ramp, and they're gonna have like their own 1-to-1 US dollar backed stable coin and stuff like that, and how they're gonna run it. If you're gonna for Pulse Chain, but
yeah, I feel like if you're gonna have them on and they're gonna be an on and off ramp, the dude's gotta show his face, man. Like you can't be, I don't know, man. Like what I've said is like the things I'm most skeptical on are on and off ramps and bridges. Like you have to have so much trust in those entities. And I'm gonna be honest, like I was skeptical of Wait. And definitely, and it's like it's cool, like it's a cool idea. Not super innovative, but like now it's stepping up. Okay, you're gonna build an on and off ramp, and I know people are excited about that. I want that because obviously it brings more value into our ecosystem, important things. But it's a big responsibility. That's not launching a meme coin, right? That's a big step, and if you're gonna do that, you've got to show who you are and like what's your background? Are you a banker? What type of like legal support are you going to have to fight regulations on? Because that's the point. Like where we're headed right now, like what I view is like where the government's going after on regulations is on and off ramps, exchanges, and stable coins. And it sounds like they're trying to do both. It's like, okay, so do you have the resources of Coinbase or any of these other huge entities that are able to actually, handle what's coming? And I think it's we're heading into like an election very soon here in the U.S. that after that I've heard is when things are going to heat up as far as regulations go. So it's like, it's a big task. It's not just launching a token. And
yeah, you're right. It's not.
And again, I'm like, it's the heat that they should receive for what they're trying to do is valid. And if they can make it through that and prove themselves worthy to be that for this ecosystem, then more power to them. But you've got to prove it. And to me, like being an anonymous founder at that point, it's like that. It doesn't cut it. You gotta show some face here. So those are my thoughts. But again, those are good things for our ecosystem, and I wish them the best of luck. I really do.
Yeah, I feel you on that, bro. And I definitely agree. Like, I do hope that everything does play out. But one reason why I wanted to have him on was because I feel like nobody, and I think Crypto Coffee could have done a better job at that. It could have been like, definitely really, putting the heat down on him and letting him know,
Yeah.
like, hey, it's not just about coming in here and announcing something. Like, you
Totally.
came in here and you gave everybody some free tokens. Now we're supposed to trust you and give you our
Totally.
money. So he did mention something about there not being custody involved. I forgot really how that worked, and I don't really want to get into it now. But
Yeah.
I will say, like, for the most part, if I do get him on stream, I'm definitely going to be that person who's going to be talking to them about it. And
Love it.
I think I forgot the gentleman's name. I'll find him on Telegram, but I'll definitely be telling him about it and asking him all those questions because
Cool.
I think as a community, a lot of people, they sometimes like they get finessed, man. With this whole
Totally.
Dodeca thing, and it
Yep.
sucks because you have people who people trust talking about it,
Yeah.
and they have thousands of followers and they know better, bro, and they're
Totally.
just. And it's like, bro, how do you put people onto that stuff? Like tax tokens, stay away from them. Anything. There's just certain things you don't do,
Yeah.
right? And I mean,
It's hard
bro,
though. Yeah.
it is hard, but I think all you're falling into is the FOMO of someone else. And let's be honest,
Totally.
like when you're falling for these tokens, like Dodeca is a great example. Like, what are you falling for? You're
Totally.
investing into one token to get another token out. That alone should be a red flag. And most people don't realize that coming into these
Yeah.
coming into crypto in general. And so, moving away from OX Coast, moving more towards Dodeca, like security, like self-security, like making sure your assets are safe, where
Totally.
you're putting your money into is super important.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, do you guys have any thoughts on like that whole Dodeca situation? You guys have been pretty vocal about it on Twitter as well.
So,
Well, I mean,
so
I
for
think
me,
it's kind of a sign of
well,
the times where,
let me say something real quick. Let me on that point on Dodeca. I feel very conflicted right now because, like, Richard Hart, I even like shared a video on Richard, from what Richard Hart's perspective is on scams, and like calling them out. Actually, like what I've learned from like the whole Dogcoin experience when I was a little vocal on like, guys, like, are you really selling your hex right now for this coin? Like, people are getting, like, it was a beautiful marketing job of like airdropping to this community and then saying like you gatekeeping us, we gave for you free coins. That one was a hard one, but I was like, I knew that people didn't know the game that they were getting into. They like, they're not meme coin experts, and there are people that know how to, when to get in and when to get out, and that's the game you're playing.
Yeah.
So I learned through that, like, personally, it's just hard. Like, the hard part is like, do you call something out or just not give it any attention? Because when you give it attention, for a lot of people, that may turn them onto it, and it may strengthen the people's opinion that are already in it, right? It's a very hard balance. So this Dodeca thing was like one of those things, and a lot of people were invested and loved it and were like shouting it out, and I didn't want to like red flag it, but or like bring attention to it. But the hardest part is like, for streamers is, with the development of Pulse Chain, I know people are just trying to, like, I don't think there's ill intent for the people that are just trying to bring attention to what's going on with Pulse Chain, right? Like just talking about things or having people on that are building things. And so, it's a hard balance there too, because how much responsibility are we putting on streamers to like fully vet a project before they have a founder on or whatever to talk about their project?
I think that should be there though from the beginning, because people were chopping down BitBoy Crypto when he was talking about a bunch of tokens that he would buy into and a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? And if you're gonna do it to him, you got to do it to everybody else. Like me personally, I mean, I'm the one thing, not to make it about me, but like I didn't shit talk it. I just put one tweet out because I didn't want to give it too much exposure either. But I just said what I had to say about it, and then in my personal chats, like to my team and to like my students, I told them straight up, like, yo, stay away from this token, because you don't want to be anywhere near what this token is doing. But those are people who listen to me, right? And so when you're talking about, like, for example, like IMB Roots, right? He's a guy who a lot of people listen to, and he's out here preaching about it and talking about it and stuff. And I don't usually like name drop people, but like, it's just like, bro, like you're known for shilling stuff and all this stuff, but you're also known as a Hexagon. Like, you got to be really careful with what you do. And I think it's it's valid for someone to be like, yo, bro, you're fucking up. You know what I mean? Like, you're
Yeah.
screwing up, and you're throwing people's money away. You're making people throw their money away by just giving them this advice and shilling something that people are ultimately going to trust you to do.
Yeah.
Because that's how the ecosystem works. That's how the community works.
Totally.
Everybody's out here to listen to someone. They have a champion. They have a mentor. They find someone and they listen to them religiously until they find the next guy, right?
Yeah.
Or until you screw them over and they go find someone else. But
Yeah.
you know, I think people should be held extremely accountable for it.
Mhm.
Definitely should be held extremely accountable for it.
Yeah, it's a crazy environment right now, you know. And the thing, even before like a lot of projects have come out, is like just the, I don't know, what I'm learning is that it is much better to just promote the things that are good, like Hex, like what we're building. I love what Alex is doing, and it's hard, like, because there's this narrative of like, oh, you're being a maxi and you like Pulse Chain's gonna die if you don't support this. And I'm so in disagreement with that like we need to support every 100 and whatever 60 projects that are coming out equally, in order for Pulse Chain to survive and give anything attention, because, you know, as Richard Hart has mentioned multiple times, there's going to be a lot of scams and a lot of bad ideas that come out, and so it's like what I've said is like we're going through this transition that Richard Hart really opened this gate with Pulse Chain. You know, before it was like very hex heavy. You couldn't mention any other project. Now that Richard Hart's kind of opened this gate by building an L1, we all kind of have to like evolve into like, okay, what does that look like as far as supporting other things that aren't his, you know, that isn't Hex. And I think it's hard. I think it's very hard for new innovations to try to tap into this community because the bar is so high. Like the bar that Richard Hart set with Hex, it's like that's what you're competing with on Pulse Chain. And if you don't match that, or if you don't meet the like criteria of being trustless, no admin keys, you know, good tokenomics, the things that we all understand now, it's like, yeah, people are gonna talk shit about it because it's like, why would you spend money on that when you could just buy Hex, right? Buy Hex. So exactly, it's hard. It's hard. What were you? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dip Catcher.
Yeah,
Dip Catcher. All I was going to say was that, like, you know, it's really just kind of a sign of the times how, like, there really is a lot of appetite to lever up the risk. Like, that's why people are willing to, you know, like things that, like, it's like, you know, that Dodeco was like a copy of these things that had failed but had like a spectacular pump once, like in the first week. And so people are willing to lever up that risk because, you know, there's a lot of people that were onboarded in the last year who have only experienced a downtrend in Hex, and those people want to reclaim, you know, that money, and so they are willing to take on more and more risk into, you know, less stable, less secure things because, like, in their mind, like maybe this is their chance to, you know, have like a quick 10x in a couple of weeks, and so it's like there's a lot of appetite for higher risk, which I do support. Like I do support people investing in dog shit. Like I think everyone is like has their own responsibility to take. And sometimes you can't learn just by someone telling you like, oh, don't make these bad trades. Like you kind of have to experience it yourself. And so I do support, you know, I kind of lean more on the side of just like not giving any attention. Like, you know, it's like, because, you know, it's like those things, they're just like one of the many things that come across, you know, your Twitter feed. And then like, you know, so I think that rather than like, you know, trying to like, I never try to like be the police of what people should and shouldn't like either talk about or like even very sensitive. But I try to, you know, promote the good stuff, and then like if people get wrecked, make their own decisions. Like that's the whole game. Is you make your own decisions.
You guys are in a very sensitive place as well because, you know, you guys are the creators of your own project, and you know, what you guys say definitely holds you guys to a certain standard. And ultimately, it reflects your project too. So you guys just can't be saying out there. But particularly, you know, for streamers, and I know you guys are streamers as well. You guys definitely are always online, you know, sharing your, you know, what you guys have to say. I think streamers, bro, it's almost like it's very childish because once again, this is why I hold the investing world and like, you know, the community that I feel like I'm building and things like that to such a professional level. Because if you look at it from a professional place, you remove the childlike players, the childlike actors in the ecosystem, and you can come out and just tell someone straight up like, yo, bro, this is garbage, like this is trash, like keep it out of the community, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel that that's what's needed right now. It's become this like playful world where, oh, I lost 50K, ha. Yo, if you lose 50K in like any other industry, you're tripping. Like you're you know, you're mad. You're losing it. Here is the only place where, because there's no regulation, people are okay with losing hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and it's not okay. You know what I mean? It's the wild, wild west. But ultimately, you know, in the wild, wild west, you also see a lot of those hard players that are coming out here and holding people accountable, right? You got the sheriff. There needs to be a sheriff in town, someone that's really holding it down and doesn't care what anybody else has to say. And I'm not saying it needs to be you guys, but if it needs to be me, you feel me? I'll definitely feel like I am that. Now,
Love that.
I'll do it in a more private setting. Once again, I don't stream too often. If I stream, it's because I have something to say. I don't like being online too much, but for the most part, it is one of those things where like, bro, if it needs to be said more often. And I'm happy that there's a lot of Hexicans who call them what they may, or what they may be called. Bro, they're out here like preaching the good word, telling people what's up, you know? And so everybody who said something about Dodeca, like cheers to them, because I mean, and not just that project, that there's been so many more, right? Like that have come out and they've been trying to take your capital. They're literally trying to take your capital, leech you for your money, and then, you know, the rug pull you. So thankfully that culture is already kind of dying down. I mean, dude, I don't know if you guys remember the Squid Games coin, that meme. The guy was
that
like,
video.
oh! Like,
well, so kind of touching on the streamers aspect of it, it kind of is also because there's actually so many streamers, and like they need to be producing like relevant content that like people are searching. And so I think that like that kind of causes people to not do so much due diligence, or like, you know, be just kind of giving a platform to things that are kind of, not end up not being so great. It's just mainly because they're just trying to create the content that's going to, either drive engagement, and, so it's definitely, I think, like a hard kind of line for people to kind of walk there. Cause like, if you take everything as like, as if it's going to be bad, then you'll miss out on the great stuff, like, what we've made. But if you take everything as if it's like good, you'll get the good stuff, but then you also, get the bad stuff as well. So it's like, it's definitely kind of like a hard thing. And it comes down to really good analysis. And then, some people, it's like they looked at the Dodeca thing, and then even the creator of it didn't know what the problem was until it already happened. And it was because he outsourced.
So he says, So he says.
So he says.
Again, but it is like the reality though of, I don't know. It's like a very hard thing. Like legal action gets taken against influencers that like tell people to buy coins, right? And I think it's hard because I like what you were describing, Dip Catcher, with the need for new content. And here we are in Pulse Chain, and there is like infinite content with everything you could talk about with going on with all the new projects and everything. So I don't know. It's hard to have an answer to that. But it's, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
It's a tough conversation.
It is.
Good.
And
it's a tough conversation to have, but it's one that definitely needs to be had, right? And but ultimately, it's for the sake of everyone that's watching, right? Like,
totally.
You know, when people get into, Maximus, or getting into a safe project, something that's been audited, something that's, that's here for the benefit of the community in its entirety. And it just sucks because there are bad actors, people that don't want that for the community ultimately. And the reason why I brought it up was just more so to, kind of see what you guys thought about it. And I know you guys had kind of, spoken about it a little bit and whatnot, but it's good to know that you guys still, to some extent, like have those beliefs and you stick to them, because it's not like you're not talking about them. You just can't be as vocal as the other guy. But I mean, it's understandable completely.
But I am also very biased as well with Hex, because I'm heavily, not only personally, but now with our community being built on Hex, I think people aren't honest with, like, of course I want the economic energy to stay in the Hex ecosystem, right? Like even with Pulse Chain, I sacrifice for Pulse and Pulse X, want those to both do great. But especially just as a founder on Hex, like, there is some selfishness to it. I'll be honest with that. But it's along with that selfishness, for it to do well and keep that energy, is that I truly in my heart believe that it is the best product to be in crypto. It's pretty much all I care about. And you know, I think that this narrative of supporting every project is dangerous, for one, because it, like, when I've pointed out like we shouldn't support every project, like people get defensive. I'm like, you're really going to support every single project that comes out. That's a bad idea. But Dip Catcher kind of, you know, pushes back on that. We have great conversations about this. For one, like it you know, not telling people what to do with their money. Everyone, like, that is the self-empowerment piece of crypto, is like you get to decide what you want to do. Like you get to decide when you want to sell, what you buy, and everyone should feel that empowerment and not allow opinions of everyone else to determine what they do.
Correct.
But you know, I do feel a responsibility from what I've learned from Richard Hart and from Hex to carry the truth I know forward, not only in like what I say, but also what we build and what we do. And I feel like with what we're building, it's the most in line with the things I believe. So when I'm like promoting what I'm doing versus what everyone else is doing, it's like, it's not like just because I want you to pump my bags. It's like, I really think it's better. And I think, you know, over time, like from the launch of Maxi, like we introduced this idea in January, no one really believed in it. And then Maxi happened, and now like people believe in that. And that's just really the start. So, you know, I'm very confident in our ability to just kind of carry that forward. And yeah, I'm just excited with what's like everything that's going on right now. Our community is just so set up to really win.
No, yeah, I respect it, bro. I mean, honestly, I think there isn't a community that's stronger than the Maximus community. I mean, the Hedron community is pushing forward. I mean, they're a little bit distraught right now with the price, but everything's going down. So I mean, it is what it is. But for the most part, you know, it's funny because the second that I think it was the second Ecosa launch came around, boom, everybody just kind of like, oh, Maxi. That was just from what I saw from my Twitter feed. Maybe I'm just, you know, I'm talking shit, but but yeah, no, but dude, the Maximus squad is super hardcore because ultimately it does align once again with the values of what Hex is, you know, and you know what you guys did with making, you know, the gas fees extremely, like the value proposition is massive. Like you're reducing Ethereum gas fees. You know, you're essentially putting people in a position to get access to a bonus they otherwise would have never had access to. And I think most Hex stakers don't realize that it's so difficult now compared to at the very beginning to get that bigger pays better. I mean that bigger pays better bonus, because it takes millions of Hex. Millions of Hex, and it's not something you're going to get unless at this point you're coming together with a community to get that. And so, I mean, you guys brought the community together, I think, with Maximus. That's what you guys really did. You know, you brought everyone together. You had them sharing one common, you know, ideology, which is ultimately, you know, Hex, and the benefit that together you are stronger.
Totally.
And so, I mean, as a Maximus holder and, you know, someone that's a part of the ecosystem, like, dude, I totally love it and I believe in it. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be here to stay for a very, very long time. And, you know, with the launch of Pulse Chain, I think it's only going to get even better. You know, and ultimately, guys, like, you know, it's been a really, really good, I can't even say it's been a really good ride. It's going great. Let's just say it like that. It's going absolutely great from my perspective. And I'm super happy for you guys because I'm sure this was maybe not what you guys expected coming into it. I mean, I know you guys had a little bit of rough waters when you first started. I remember that a lot of people weren't believing in Maximus at first. How did that make you guys feel at the beginning? Like, you know, having some people not really believe in it. I know Abit was like a super hardcore, you know, fan of it from the
beginning.
It was
crazy.
Well,
I mean, what's crazy, like for us, like this isn't our first rodeo. So like we pushed a startup idea that was so ahead of its time for 3 years, and so we felt what it feels like we were seasoned in people like not believing in it, but truly, like, there was a point when it just like clicked for a lot of people, and it was like pretty close. There were some people that it just really clicked maybe like 2 weeks out of our launch. They were like, holy crap. Also was when we, you know, the thing with Maxi is like a lot of the value props, they were really identified. I mean, we created it for gas fee savings, but the maximizing yield, instant liquidity, and you know, the yield on yield, those things were like really developed once the idea was live, and we were talking to people and like found out what people are excited about. And so, you know, about 2 weeks out from the Maxi launch, it clicked for a lot of people. And then from that point, the launch was just an insane like experience, as like millions of HEX was just flooding into this contract to be staked. And we hit like 294 million in 2 weeks, and it was crazy. And then once the stake started, the price premium just exploded and it went up to like, 20%, 100%, and has since just held it. And so it's just been a wild ride from Maxi. And now with these new pools, it was kind of another paradigm shift for even our community, because we created Maxi to be this max length stake, and now we're creating a HEX staking ladder, providing even more optionality. And then we added team. So I think we built up.
You guys have just been stacking, like
we've been stacking, and the way we're building too is like very modular, and it's by design, in a way that everything we're launching builds off the other and benefits the previous things we've launched. Yeah. So like with Maxi, like locking up 294 million HEX for 15 years massively benefited HEX. Then from that, like launching team, we're burning 20% of the Maxi supply, locking up a lot more HEX, which is pumping Maxi in the process. And so that's really part of our ethos, is just like continuing to improve, build upon, and it really is just the start.
And Dip Catcher, how about for you, bro? Like, how was that for you at the very beginning? Like, well, how was it like from your perspective?
I mean, so there was some kind of like initial, like when we first started announcing that we were going to be doing this, there was some kind of like just like pushback, but not like anyone was coming with like solid reasoning. It was more just like, something new, and they just kind of put their barriers up, and then they
as they should
want to accept something new. But then
that's normal.
But then I mean, but a lot of people, just because since I've been active in HEX for a long time, and like being consistent, and so like it's almost like no one could really kind of step to that, and it was clear that it's not like a money grab. But then also what kind of cleared the way for us in a big way was kind of how Hedron launched like a couple weeks before us. It's like they kind of took on all that like initial debate around like, should you be able to sell your stake, and then and so they actually kind of alleviated a lot of that like backlash, where they kind of took that on. And so it's like they had their stake liquid stake solution, and then they kind of took on all that backlash, and then a couple weeks later, here we are with ours, which is like clearly a much better solution. I don't know of many HSIs that are selling at a huge premium, but like Maxi, this big stake is just right. It's there's a lot of demand for it, and so we have like a really good we had like a really good solution, and then like the kind of like pushback was kind of exhausted by then, because it's like, what can you say? It's just like, oh, you're changing the delayed gratification. It's like, okay, well the HEX is delayed, and it's based on how the software was written. And like you look back at Richard Hart videos going back from the beginning, like consistently he's talked about these secondary markets. He's talked about wrapping HEX stakes and selling them. And so he's, so that it's kind of like there was nothing to say about it. And then, we came in, the max length stake, came at like like the perfect time. And then, there's a lot of enthusiasm around the launch. And then, and then from there, it's just kind of like the proof was in the pudding on the price chart that, there's continuing demand for it. And so, it was kind of like, because like no one had any good opposition to it. There wasn't like anything that was like a strong, like a strong reason to be against it. And so
what are the stronger reasons were that people were taking away from like the idea, the initial reason why HEX was made, which is like, oh, how are you going to turn a stake liquid? That's like you're losing the point of it. But I mean, the reality is the selling pressure going into Maximus instead of it going into HEX kind of like mitigates that as well. So like you guys did have a lot of, and even if it wasn't intentional from the very beginning, like the asset itself was kind of like in its design still able to counteract anything that you can kind of say about it. And ultimately as well, I think if you're a HEX staker, that you don't want to sell any of your HEX. I think if you just look at everything that's happened from Bitcoin to Ethereum, to all these other projects that have launched, really Bitcoin and Ethereum from their inception, people that just bought and held. Like I look at the Godwell, I'm just like, bro, like this guy is loaded. He has so much money. All he did was buy and hold.
Yep.
buy and hold. That's all he had to do. Whether it was liquid or he could sell, it was up to him. It wasn't about it being staked or it being locked away. It was just him as a person saying, I'm not selling any of this stuff. Maybe he had a reason not to sell it, whatever it was. Maybe he lost his keys for a little while. Who knows? But the reality is just like he just didn't sell. And that's why he is where he is. You know, and eventually he did start selling off. You can see it in his wallet and whatnot. But like all you got to do is just buy and hold. Ultimately, though, the biggest value prop is the bigger pays better bonus and the fact that you're saving on massive gas fees. And one thing I want to talk to you guys a little bit about too, now that I have you here, is, you know, in regards to, you know, kind of like that being a selling point, right? The fact that the Ethereum gas fees are so cheap. I know a lot of people maybe don't think like it's a problem, but you know, speaking to those individuals who are newer, who maybe, you know, just got involved and they don't understand why gas fees might be an issue in the future. Like, what do you like? Can you guys share? You know, Dip Catcher, you can go first. You know, kind of like the whole issue with the gas fees and why that solution that Maximus brings to the table is so important.
Yeah, I mean, so just the like, regardless of the gas price, because like the gas kind of comes in two pieces. There's like the amount of gas that a particular type of smart contract operation uses, and then that's multiplied by the gas price, which is then multiplied by the ETH price. And
Right.
so there's kind of cycles where there's like in a bull market when a lot of people are using the network and the price of ETH is high, that just like double amplifies the cost. And something changed last year where the cost for ending a stake increased by 3 times. And so this gas fee for ending your stake, it's not based on the value of the stake, it's based on the length. And so every additional day costs a little bit more gas. And so for the max length hex stakes, right now, based on the current Ethereum block size, only 2 max length stakers could fit in a single Ethereum block. And so since there's hundreds and thousands of people that are doing these long-term stakes on their own, there's going to be just the hexagons alone are going to drive the gas price up. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be many stakes that are purely infeasible to end, where they see their money there, they see it on Staker app. Maybe their stake grows from being worth like, you know, $500 to $50,000. But what if the gas costs $50,000 to end it? Like, look at how much money they make per, like the miners or now the validators make per block. It's like, you know, in that ballpark. And if it's 2 max length stakes per block, like that's a huge amount of money. So your asset can grow a lot, but if it's not outpacing the gas, then you're screwed. And so that's like the big problem that no one's aware of, because it, like, we've only experienced to date like 1,000-day stake ends, and it's like the last time that the gas was really expensive was in the last bull market. So that was like, you know, 800-day long stakes were ending, and even those were high, like hundreds of dollars or thousands
there
of
were
dollars
hundreds
on the time. And so, you know, it was already a problem then, but it only gets worse every additional day that the stake is long. And so that's why the you know, and I think a lot of people, they assume that someone's going to come in and fix that, or they just assume that Pulse Chain is a solution for that. But like, kind of like I said earlier, that like the value in Pulse Chain isn't so much in that gas fee saving, it's in that like EVM network, like dual chain system. And so it's like the people that can afford to end their stake on both Ethereum and Pulse Chain, they're going to be doing a lot better than the people that can only afford to end them on Pulse Chain. And so that gas fee is really important to optimize around. And the more max length stakes that there are, then the higher it is for everybody else, because then everyone's going to be competing for those blocks. The blocks, there's only finite amount of people that can be on a block. And if the max length stakes take up where only 2 of those individual stakes can fit in a block, and there's only, you know, a couple hundred blocks a day, like it's, you know, it's like a big problem. And it's actually a really big negative externality on Hex, because like I did a calculation, someone published the amount of max length stakes that are ending in, like, they were created in the last 30 days. And there was like 5,000 individual max length stakes, mainly from the Psychosa launch. And so that is, if you assume that the ETH price is $10,000, so twice the all-time high, who knows what it's actually going to be, but twice the all-time high, and you assume like modest, like the type of gas fee that you wish for in a bull market, like 50 GWay, That's like $50 million of gas extracted from the HEX economy
Wild.
in that single month in 2037. And that doesn't include all the max length stakes before then and leading up after that. And so there's like huge amounts of money that's going to be extracted from the HEX economy purely just for gas. And the act of everyone paying that gas to end their stake is what drives the gas price up and even locks out further amounts of HEX from being able to end stake. So it's like a horrible situation that, you know, it's hard for people to, like, everyone thinks that they have long-term perspective, but they only have that in the ways that they think is going to profit them, but they ignore the long-term problems that, you know, could negatively affect them. They're like, oh, the ETH devs will fix it. Oh, Pulse Chain will fix it. And so they kind of don't want to hear it, that there's like a big problem.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I really try to beat the drum, because, like, you know, these pools are a direct solution that's live today, where, like, it's like, even if the fees are low, it's like you still experience all these benefits, you know, of pooling in these stakes with the liquidity and then the bonuses. And then also, even if the fees are low, it's like you're still going to be outperforming the people that staked on their own, you know, because even if it's like only
all the upside and little to no downside.
Yeah. So it's like it's like a clear solution. I think that it's like a problem that's so far away, even though it's really not that far away. We're already 1/5 of the way there from launch.
Right.
So it's something that I think people just they don't want to cope with. And so there's kind of some, you know, like people just assume or expect that someone's going to fix it down the line. But yeah, I mean, it is a huge problem. It's a huge negative externality. And that's that, you know, that was really what we were aiming to solve with when as soon as it clicked to me that 2 max length stakes could fit in a block, like the maxi stake alone is going to keep tens of millions, you know, with we had like 5,400 participants. That's going to keep like $50 million in HEX that would otherwise be extracted out through gas fees.
You know, those are some good stats. Clip that, Hina. Hina's my editor. She's gonna go ahead and do that for me, bro. That's a lot. I mean, if you try to fit that in a tweet, bro.
It is a crazy. It is crazy though that, you know, we saw the same problem that Richard Hart saw that drove him to launch an L1, right? Like he saw what HEX was, or what Ethereum gas fees were doing to HEX stakes, and he kind of foresaw that. And so the narrative around that with gas fee savings to kind of save HEX, when we launched, I think that was one of the hardest narratives to overcome, is like, oh, well, and this is what Dip Catcher was talking about. Oh, well, like Pulse Chain is going to solve that soon. And it's like, okay, but like, what about right now? And what about the fact that, like, if you're staking right now, and you're staking small, Pulse Chain, you will get your free copy. Your stake will work on Pulse Chain, but that's 50% of your yield you're giving up on Ethereum. And so it's like trying to overcome that to just like spread the word that, like, hey, you could actually stake in these pools and not have to sacrifice half your yield, your HEX yield, and have both your stakes on both chains. So yeah, man, it feels good to like not only save a lot of people from high gas fees, but also keep more money in the HEX economy, as Dip Catcher says.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part too, man. I mean, just leaving the money in the HEX economy, because that's all money that people can use towards better things. And I mean, you know, let's be real. Like, once you have a certain amount of money, what are you gonna really do with it? You know, you're not gonna just spend it all. And I think there's a lot of really great people in HEX. And something, I mean, I can't tell people what to do with their money, but hopefully, one day, you know, I get to that place where, you know, I can aimlessly spend or you know, just give money away. I think that's such a better way at like attracting people than I think maybe what Richard might be doing right now. He has a really cool attracting marketing that he's kind of has going on right now, but there's nothing better than like giving, you know, because like when you become a go-giver, like you receive in that way, you know what I mean? And I think that's what's missing from the HEX community, like the giving aspect of it. Like, there's been sponsorships, there's been so much things that these generous people have done to be able to promote it, but I feel like, you know, giving ultimately is going to be that place where, if, you know, the HEX community became more of a giving community, in the sense that, like, you know, towards, you know, donating money towards certain things, or, you know, doing things for certain people, that gets like a lot of hits. And it's not to say to do it for the hits, but like, I don't know if you guys know Steve Will Do It. Like, you know, Steve Will Do It strategy, how he's become super massive. Like, this guy invests every single dollar back into, like, you know, his videos, and every single dollar he makes, he goes and he gives it away. or not every single dollar, but a lot of the money he makes, he goes and he gives it away. And I think that's such a great, way to not only, give back, but also, bring attention towards what you're doing, because it does inspire the act of giving within other people. Like for me, for example, like I saw Steve do it. I'm like, damn, dude, like if I can get into a position where I can give someone some type of, you know, like gift or help them in some type of way, right? Like, whatever it can be. I think that would be so positive. And yeah, like, I mean, once again, there's no better way to see it done than to do it yourself. So hopefully, all these things align and we move in that direction. But yeah, man, I mean, I think the community's, definitely doing its thing. As far as bear markets go, guys, when do you guys think this thing is gonna switch around? I'm the type of person who believes in the market cycle, the 4-year market cycle. I honestly think 2024, 2025 is when this thing's gonna start to maybe turn around a little bit more. How about you guys? What do you guys think as far as like what a bear market cycle looks like? Do you think Hex is gonna maybe follow Hart's law, right? Maybe move completely independent to everything else? How do you guys feel about the price?
I mean, so
You go.
like
Yeah, actually,
there's
GoldKey,
a
if you
lot
want,
that
you
goes
can go
into it.
first real quick, or yeah, Dip Catcher, whoever wants to go
Yeah, I
first.
mean, there's
You
like
can
a lot.
yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, just like even outside of crypto, like because the whole world is kind of like resetting in a way. And
Yeah,
so and that and with like as long as gas is like expensive, where people feel like it's expensive, then and the food feels like it's expensive, and all these things, like people like retail investors, like their investment budget just goes down. And I think like because Hex really is like a kind of like a consumer savings product. It's like compared to last year where the huge wave of new retail users, we have very little like institutional adoption, which is a good thing. It's like so we're kind of dependent on the strength of like the retail crypto investor, who's like that's kind of the like what the Hex kind of at least buy demand is based on. And we're also kind of countering a problem where there's not so many people, but hundreds or thousands of few thousand people that they bought Hex so low that even though we're off the all-time highs and they've been staked, that they've still performed massively. And so like, and I think the psychology of having experienced like the really highs and seeing like those massive numbers on your staker app to then going down, like anytime there's a lot of people that regret not selling at the really highs, that the price is just going to have to fight through. And then also there's another group of people, it's a smaller number of Hex, because luckily the price is so high these people just don't have much Hex. The people that bought the top and are down big, and I mean a lot of these people are the ones that are kind of like looking for these high risk things in the other places kind of adjacent to Hex. But there's kind of those two categories of seller, like the top buyer who's just like feeling down big, and then the person who bought really low, who saw huge numbers on paper. Now they've lost 90%, still up massively, where they're fine selling at 3 cents because they were euphoric when it first hit 3 cents. And so those are there's a lot of that. And then with all the outside of, in the real world stuff that's causing people to, just be a little bit more careful or just not have as much money to invest. Those two things together, I think are, I mean, it's why we've been in like a year-long downtrend. But luckily we're kind of in this category of things where we're like, we're past, like we have critical mass, but we don't have like the institutional class, yet. The institutional class usually enters things in like the second or third cycle. Like the institutional class entered Bitcoin after it had already gone through like numerous ones of these, cycles. And same with Ethereum, like institutional class just got into Ethereum, and Hex being something that can, it has proven itself. Now it's, 3 years. We've kind of gone through 2 of our own kind of bull and bust cycles already. And so like, it's one where that type of catalyst, especially, like that's really what we're trying to do by, we're trying to bring Hex, you kind of like advance the financial utility and kind of advance the narrative of Hex as like this like serious financial asset. I think that Hex, of all coins that have launched in similar timeframes, is one of the strong ones that doesn't have large institutional adoption yet, but absolutely can. And so I think that kind of, as like, because the big smart money gets in the bear markets. I think that there could be a shift in that sense where, kind of like this new category of hex investor gets in, and that's like more, that's not just like the retail group that, is kind of the bread and butter today. So I think that we're kind of in this sweet spot of like a lot of upside potential, and there's large categories of buyers that are not in yet. And so I think that, the bear market can last as long as, there's sellers who are selling faster than new buyers. But, we've had a year of constant selling, and we're still at levels
Literally.
felt euphoric on the way up. So that's kind of like a nice, it's like a short-term downtrend amidst a long-term uptrend. Like that's like the sweet spot you want to be in. And so, hard to say how long it's going to last, but I think it's kind of like all the things are kind of set up in place, to prepare for this next cycle, whatever that may be.
So like on our stream last night, Dip Catcher really opened my eyes about just the cycles of hex and like what that downtrend looked like for us and the stairway down. Like he said, we took the elevator up. Like most take the stairs up and the elevator down. We took the elevator up and we're taking the stairs down. And through that process of like, I think it was a lot of early people selling the price of hex down, obviously, but the positive side of that is like that's less resistant. Those people can't sell into the next pump, right? They have to buy again to sell. For me, like one narrative with hex is like that, like I just don't really agree with, is like that we're decorrelated, because even if we're not like correlated to Bitcoin directly, look at what people are talking about. Like even Richard Hart himself is calling the hex top and he called the hex bottom, right? Because it, like whether we're attached to Bitcoin, people look to Bitcoin as the indicator of like, okay, this bear market's over, right? So we are very much tied to that. And Bitcoin is very much correlated to the traditional markets, which, we know how those are going too. And kind of like Dip Catcher was said, like everything's expensive right now. And until like the US government decides to, to move past this, like we are going to stay where we're at. But the positive side of that is like, if you can, I try to not think about this too much. I'm thinking about it right now, like when the next cycle will be and what that cycle will look like because of the perpetuals, because that should play into like how you're considering which perpetuals you're joining, or are you going to join all of them? Because, with base, like you're earning trustless yield every year. So your likelihood of like having liquid capital on hand to maybe lock in gains is a lot higher than maybe Deci, because it's, more long-term. And maybe there's a couple cycles in there. Obviously you have a liquid token, but maybe the premium isn't as high, because other people are trying to do what you're doing. So that's where that trustless yield piece plays into this staking ladder, is because you are going to get that hex into those cycles. With Trio, I think a lot of people think about that too. Maybe in 3 years, that's the perfect time to be earning the most hex yield to redeem and then lock in gains there. So it's so hard, man. I mean, you're talking about like macroeconomics. Like I agreed with I agree with what Dip Catcher was talking about. Why people are playing these other games is because like hex investors are smart, and the reality is like if we wanted the price to go up, we have enough capital on hand right now that the hex whales, the hex sharks could make the price go to an all-time high today. Literally, like if everyone just decided like, okay, now's the time. But the reality is they're not doing it because they don't believe now is the time to do it, right? So so it's like if you're not a whale, what you should be thinking about is like, what can I do in this bear market to set myself up to be winning in the next bull, whenever that is. And I think, looking at like when you're looking at an asset, like I think it's fair, like what we were talking about earlier, to have a percentage of your bag to maybe play around with the more risky meme coin style games. But I try to think of the people that, like my people are the people that have $1,000 that they have in savings, or like they're setting aside like $500 a month. And it's very hard when you have that much to invest to not be like, F it, I'm going to throw on this meme coin, because that's how you get wrecked. You're not making progress.
Yeah.
Because it's a gamble. You're picking red or black at the casino table. That's why I try to encourage people to look at Hex, to look at what we're building, to look at staking, because it's like, even through a bear market, you're earning, right? Like you're moving forward, and you're gonna be better off than if you played 10 meme coin games and you lost on all of them, because you were going way too hard. And that's what I think is getting wrecked. Because when you invest too much, that it hurts and you haven't made any progress. So with Hex, like it's much harder, but if you can build your longer term strategy first, you actually have more playroom. Like you have more money to throw at these other things that are going on. But if you're just getting started, like it's so tempting. Like a lot of people get pulled into crypto because they see that 10,000x or whatever. They're like, it's so tempting to like get that get rich quick. But it's like, if you can see through the bullshit and just like build your stack, your baseline stack, you'll move forward, which is like the key. It's the key to being
dollar
able
cost
to
averaging essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, like
exactly.
getting in, adding to your position. And once again, it comes back to that professionalism. And I love that you're mentioning the fact that it's like it's a very macroeconomic view, because I study that a lot, and I come from like a forex background. So for me, I used to work with a lot of assets. I saw this 3-hour documentary. Actually, Wales put me onto it. It's called Money Masters. I think it's called Money Masters. The history of monetary policy, taxes, and something else. I forgot what it was called, right? But it's a 3-hour documentary explaining money. And you see it real time, like what's happening out in the world, like how the government puts money out there. And I think right now there's a little bit more of manipulation to the game, considering the world events that have occurred and stuff like that, and all the loans that were given out and everything. But right now, they're taking those loans back, and they're putting people in positions to where they can't pay back those loans, and extracting their assets and taking everything from them, and putting people in a place where unfortunately they may not be able to invest into the assets they want to invest into, because they got to buy food or do other things, right? Like the reality that there's a bigger the richer are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class is essentially disappearing is a real thing. It's actually occurring. And kind of opening up, like, my optimism is that the market cycle will continue, but is it possible for there to be like a 4-year bear market? It's very likely. We've never seen it before. Honestly, we're entering in times where we've never, like, we're going into a time where we've never seen times be this uncertain before. We went through prosperous years, and I'm 24, so like imagine, last recession was 2008. But no matter how much I want to say that the recession happened in 2008 and there might be another one that's happening now, or whatever the case may be, right? Bitcoin still did what it did throughout all of that. And so my optimism lies in the sense that we're in a different industry, we're in a different place where we play by different rules, and where those institutional investors, or the money changers, right, aren't in our game yet, right? And they're trying to be, but they're not. And we're so early on, and I think that's what people don't get yet, is that even though we're talking about how Bitcoin came out 12 years ago, and yes, Richard says, "Oh, you're late to the game." I think, yeah, you might be a little bit late relative to how hard everything else is pumping, but you're still very early in the sense of, like, look at how young Hex is, and look at how young a lot of these projects are around us. Like, there's so much great things happening in the ecosystem that you can still be a part of, that can turn you into a successful investor. Like, Pulse Chain hasn't even launched yet, right? Like, think about that. Like, PulseX hasn't even launched yet. So you have all these unique opportunities that, yes, by Maximus, right? Stake through Maximus, stake through Hex, however you decide to build your stack, whatever. But also realize that, like how I see it, like as a venture capitalist, right? Or a crypto venture capitalist, right? For example, you're coming at it and you're saying, okay, what's the new project in town? What's the new asset that makes sense with what's going on? And, to that point also, I see things from, like, just a very realistic perspective as well. Like, you know, I hear what Richard says when he says, like, you know, people get bored of video games very, very quickly. So like the metaverse, all that stuff never really caught my attention. And I don't think the project that pumped this cycle will be the same project that pumps next cycle. I think there's going to be a new project. There's going to be something else, another NFT, something that's going to be more popular than the ones that were popular this time around. Like the same way that, you know, the if you look at the top 10, top 20 coins, every bull market, it's a different set of coins, and very few are the ones that are there. So I just focus on DeFi, and I love DeFi so much because, you know, we're still trying to fix the financial system. We haven't succeeded yet. Like there's still like peer-to-peer currency hasn't really been fully accomplished yet. Like there's so many things that haven't gotten you know, their love. And so to focus on like video games and all this stuff, I think it's a distraction in a way. And it might be, you know, it might not be what people want to hear. I think it's more of a cutthroat way of investing where like you're just focusing on the money. But the reality is I think that's where we are, where the DeFi is the peak. The DeFi is like the ish. Like that's where you need to be focusing on, because ultimately with all this stuff going on, you know, not everybody thinks that, you know, putting your money into a metaverse farm or, you know, buying a plot of land on this thing is going to be what's eventually going to make you more money. It's going to be the asset, the speculative asset that people want to hold over the course of a long period of time.
I think it's like part of just like
game theory.
Yeah,
like the demographics are changing too, because like the NFT kind of hype cycle, and also just like now younger and younger kids are starting to just speculate, and so there is kind of this demographic shift that's happening, and like I think that's kind of what caused kind of like the partially with the NFT stuff, like this like whole like metaverse craze, and you know like these like play to earn games like that like Axie Infinity thing. It's like kind of like it's like a younger, like less sophisticated crop of speculator. Whereas like, you know, kind of our, you know, like the class of 2021, it's like, or the class of 2017 compared to the class of 2021, I feel like that class, like a lot of those people, they kind of came out of like the kind of like online entrepreneur community, you know, people that want to, you know, like open drop shipping businesses or, you know, building apps or like that type of user. And so they're kind of more into it from like, you know, the financial aspect. And then that was at the time, all those ICOs, which are like the crazier the business idea, the more money you would raise. And so there's more of like a kind of like business oriented wave to that. And then in 2020, I think that was like a big breakthrough for kind of like sophisticated finance, like DeFi, like the whole DeFi summer 2020. While there was like a whole lot of just garbage, but you know, it's like kind of like, you know, like HEX
was a part of that, right?
Wi-Fi, like all these, you know, like, you know, this whole like credit arbitrage thing that kind of took over DeFi. And so that it kind of became more mature. And then like the result of that, like all that financial infrastructure built up as a result of that DeFi stuff, then it like now like kind of like it kind of went in the opposite direction of like, you know, this level of sophistication where prior it's like, you know, it required, you know, really good like analysis plus really good timing. And then now it like with the NFT stuff, it's kind of been consolidated to where like rather than, you know, like in HEX, the people that performed the best were the people that bought between a particular window and then had like the correct staking strategy. Whereas in the NFT thing, it's like the people that perform the best are just the people where they all minted at the same time, but just the person who just got lucky to get the most rare traits. And so it's kind of like shifted like how those gains and losses are allocated, like
it became
away
gamified.
from like financial analysis into just like, you know, roll a die, you win, you know, this person wins and then these 100 people lose. And that's kind of like, you know, I think it just kind of speaks to the demographic shift, and just also because like all the DeFi stuff enables all these other like kind of like lowest common denominator use cases. And you know, that's probably what we'll continue to see. You know, as these cycles, like
I feel like crypto right now, like crypto in general, is exactly what the startup world feels like for like a venture capitalist, truly. Because like our first startup, we were a virtual reality startup, which was all the rage. It was like on the front end of like the 2016 virtual reality craze, where everyone was talking about virtual reality and everyone was like trying to create like these innovative ideas. Oh, we're going to use virtual reality for training in the business place or in the workplace. And we're going to like VR gaming's where it's at. And a lot of it's just like, you got to like see through it. It's hard, but everyone's like, that's what we're all learning right now, is like to see through the bullshit and then like find the real shit. And it's not easy, man. Like, you know, like professional investors have a hard time with this, and we're all pretty like normal people that are trying to make sense of everything that's going on. And you know, it's even bigger than crypto is so much bigger than like the startup world, because there's multiple chains, there's like different theories on what's good, and
Very vast,
like
yeah.
even like what you're building on. It's like if you know, it's so complex. But I feel very fortunate. I've only really known Hex, and I'm one of those like very fortunate people that found it very early. Shout out Dip Catcher for bringing me in on this. But like luckily, you know, I've only been wrecked once, and this was like outside. This was actually after I learned about Hex. I played around with one meme coin that I was like, oh, that's a cool idea, and jumped in too much, and didn't lose that much money, but it was just like, okay, yep, that's why I don't do that. Yeah, because I got Dip Catcher in too. Like the two things I bro, like actually I've gotten wrecked. I didn't get wrecked twice. I just didn't.
We got wrecked on that.
The
opportunity cost.
No, we didn't. No, dude, OST gave us funding for like 6 months. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but then the opportunity cost.
Oh my god!
Famous text where the price went up. Like I think his investment was like $1,000, and it went up to like 30,000. And he's like, I want to sell. And I was like, you don't want to regret it.
No, he's like, are you sure? And I was like, shit, dude, that's happened twice. That happened with that. And I didn't trust my gut. I didn't sell. And then it literally next day, boom, down to zero. Or it's just like way down.
You know what happened to me, bro?
At least OST bled out over time. And we were able to, that funded our life for like 2 years.
No, that was good. But the second one, the second time I did that with Dip Catcher was with Hedron when it was at 60 cents. And I was like, oh, I want to sell this, dude. You were like, are you sure? Because that's like the hardest part, man. It's like, are you sure?
Remember, we were sitting in the car. I was like, because we had to go. We were going out of town. I was like, look, I'm down to sell. You make the call, dude. So I don't know. We might remember this differently.
All right, I need to stop making the calls. Dude, that's the hard part. That's the hard part.
Because like it's so hard because it's impossible to call. That's why I think it's hard to even just like to try like day trading and stuff, because like the timing is really what matters.
So listen to this, right? So I got into Dogelon. You guys know Dogelon?
Yeah.
No.
Dogelon?
You don't? Okay, Dogelon. Yeah, all right. So I got into Dogelon. I think I put in like 20K, right? And I was with a buddy of mine. He got into it as well. And we're like, and I put in my own money. Like he put in 20, I put in like 5 or some shit like that. And bro, it was so funny because it was right when Vitalik was getting fed up with everybody like sending him meme coins. Bro, I wake up one morning, I'm in Colombia. You know, I moved out there for 3 months last year, and I was just there like, you know, chilling. I woke up one morning, I look, and I'm like, oh damn, like, you know, $250,000. I'm like, this is a lot. You know what I mean? This is a lot of money. You know, and I'm thinking this thing's gonna pump. And I call my boy up and I'm like, bro, should we sell? You know, same conversations you guys had. And he's like, nah, bro, I want $1 million. I want $1 million. I'm like, oh, whatever, bro. I'm not selling till you're selling, whatever. And so, not even a few hours later, this whole Vitalik sends all the coins to like these charities and stuff.
I remember that.
Dogelon being one of them.
Yeah.
And the market goes, wow, and it just crashes, bro. $250,000 gone like that. Now we did profit off of it. We did profit off of that. I'm not gonna lie, we made hella money. I think he cleared like 80 or something like that. But you know, the funny part is also if you would have held for 6 more months, we would have made even more money. We would have made millions of dollars because Dogelon actually ended up being a meme coin with Shiba pumping like stupid hard. Whatever.
That's crazy.
Talk about missed opportunity, which is crazy.
No, dude, it's that moment. It's that moment. There's a moment when you have to make the decision of selling. Like, I mean, that's why I don't play that game, is because I have learned from my own experience of like the times that I've tried. I'm terrible at it. I'm like, you know, there's people that, and honestly, I know we were talking about B Roots earlier. Here's the thing. I don't respect the game he plays because it's kind of shitty to like, you know, buy a coin, pump, like put it out and then sell it into the pump that you create or you're a part of. But the thing is the dude, like is very transparent about this game, and he's the only person I've ever heard actually explain like what he's actually thinking about in this crazy game. He's out within 5 days is kind of the max on a meme coin. Like when it's pumping, when it's going crazy, like locking gains, and you're out before 5 days. And I think a lot of people, you know, a lot of people get sold on this, like, I'm going to hold it till it's like,
Oh,
you
to
know,
the
I'm going to hold it all the way
Safe
down.
Moon had that effect.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you're playing, that's why, you know, with the whole dog coin for Hexkins thing was like, people just didn't like their Hexkins, so they want to hold it long term, but it's like you don't know the game you're actually playing, and how to lock in those gains and win that game, because there's a lot of people that do and they're going to win and you're not, and you're going to be stuck holding it to like, you know, 2 cents or whatever. So it's like it's just a hard game, and there, you know, if you're going to get in that game, just spend time to like really learn how to win it, right? Like if you're and again, I don't advise anyone to jump in that game until you get your foundation, like get your cornerstone right with Hex and Hex staking, and then you have like you're still moving forward, and maybe you have like 10% to play around with in those things, because it's just gambling.
Yeah, you're literally gambling at that point.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, like back in the day, like when I did it, it wasn't even profitable. Like, I mean, it was profitable per se, like with that specific scenario, but bro, imagine cashing out $250,000 and just having been able to just, you know, take that money out, been happy with the gains. But then, you know what I probably would have done was put those $250,000 right back into another market or something, right? Like,
I love
that's
it.
the thing, that you just keep falling in love with this, like, oh, everything's gonna pop off, everything's gonna go up, and it's just not how things go. And so people need to be very careful playing that.
Totally.
You know, with the NFT stuff that we were talking about earlier as well, that was what a lot of people were doing. They were trying to mint NFTs, reselling them in the market, and eventually that became so saturated that not even that was working. And you know, that like there's just so many things that come and go, so many phases that come and go. But I think the only thing that stuck around, like really, really stuck around, has been like DeFi. Like decentralized finance has been here to stay. Anything pertaining to like liquidity pools, swaps, though they've had like an up and a down, like they like people who have been able to do it right. Like for example, Aave was a pretty sick, is a pretty sick protocol. And anybody that's invested in Aave, for example, like they're still doing pretty well. Like Aave is a project that's been here for years. You know what I mean? Like you're not losing much from that. Like if you're invested in that type of asset, like if you're invested in that type of world, like you know, you're essentially putting yourself in the DeFi world. It sticks around. It's here to stay. Everything else leaves and people lose sight of everything else, even if it doesn't have a token, like it's still there. It's still available for you to use because that's the infrastructure. That's what's staying here forever. And people don't get bored of that. People still need that to this day. And it only gets better. And so when I saw Hex, bro, Hex is, it's true what they say. Hex is like an IQ test. When you see it, even if you don't fully understand it, like you can just kind of more or less get it and still be excited about it, because you know, in a way, it's something that does something that a lot of other assets don't, in a way that no other asset does. You know, and so if you can just stick around to understand it and really get behind it, I mean, you're gonna take off. Let me see what a couple people are saying here in the chat, because I know we've been ignoring it for a little bit. Hexlove says, is now a good time to buy Hex at 0.3207? I think this is a time to bring out a little chart real quick. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me see if I can do some tech. Let's go ahead and here to trading view. Yeah, so coming from Forex trading, I have a pretty decent technical analysis background. Let me see, Chrome tab. There we go. All right, so let's share that. And yeah, bro, so this is what I kind of think about Hex right now, and I'll kind of give you guys, and I'll give you some details as well pertaining to this. So overall, right, on the daily time frame, let me see if I can, everything looks good here. Let me just move this on this side. All right, perfect. Oh, and I'm not even sharing my screen. There we go. Okay. So on the daily time frame, oh wait. There we go. All right. So yeah, so like on the daily time frame, right? One thing we need to consider is we already broke this trend line right here that we were kind of building. And we've been on a in a downtrend for a very, very long time. I mean, that's just something that you can't deny, right? Like prices come from highs all the way to 3 cents. We made it to 7 cents, and then now we're pushing back to 3 cents again. I think these levels down here, like 3 cents and 3 cents, are going to be some levels that we're going to hit pretty soon. I have my alerts set. I'm just waiting for them to come in. And now whether it stays there or goes down, it doesn't matter to me. I'm dollar cost averaging in. So I'm not going to tell you to buy or not. I'm just telling you what I personally do, which is dollar cost averaging at every single position, because it's not guaranteed that the market price is going to fall. And I'm very consistent with what I do. So right now, because I own a HEX bag and I already have a lot of HEX, I don't really choose to like over invest into it. Like I don't put everything that I have into cryptocurrency. I'm also saving some dry powder for PLS and other projects like that, right? I do like $500 every 2 weeks or every month based on what I'm comfortable with doing. So I'll probably dollar cost averaging at $3, cost averaging at 2. I know some people are looking at around 1 cent, 1.5 cents. It's possible that we can get there. One thing I will say is this, right? So if you go to apphex.win and you look at what it says here in the liquidity pools for Ethereum on V2, V3. Let's let this thing load real fast. And why is the internet being so whack? What's another chart I can look at between? Oh yeah, look into HEX. Yeah, so if you go to look into HEX, we can also come over here to liquidity. So I think it's over here. Yeah, somewhere over here. Yeah, on DEX's token pairs. Yeah, it'll tell you in US dollar value, but in HEX value, yeah, okay. So live market data, price, number of coins. I think this is the total liquidity sitting in these pools. So there's 484 million HEX sitting in these pools. And I don't know if you guys have been looking at these stats for a while now. There used to be 120, like 130 million sitting in these pools. And so what happens is when these liquidity pools have more HEX, it takes a lot more money to buy for price. It takes a lot more money for price to go up, because you essentially have to buy up all the HEX that's sitting in those order books at those low prices for then price to start going back up. But when there's lower liquidity, let's say there's only 50 million HEX at around like 4 cents. If someone comes in and buys those 50 million HEX, or a group of people buy those 50 million HEX, now it goes to the next price, 5 cents, 6 cents, 10 cents, blah, 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 and it keeps going higher and higher and higher. The more liquidity that they're sitting in a pool, the harder it is to push price up, but the easier it is to push price down. And so because there's this much sitting right here, it just makes me infer personally that the chart itself at some point is gonna, not hold the support levels that it's trying to, create. And so like these support levels, it bounced off of them, but ultimately after, from August to September, even though people were buying, the sellers overpowered the buyers, because as all this was happening, the liquidity pools were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I think personally, 3.5 cents, maybe 2.5 cents is going to be something that is possible. All it takes is a big enough dump for price to kind of move us lower over here. But what does that mean for you? There's even more HEX available for you to buy at these lower prices. And so if you, right, a buyer, someone who maybe hasn't been able to get into HEX and wants to get into, the perps or something like that, and you want to stake however you want to stake, you have the opportunity to buy at all these different levels. And the cool thing about buying at lower levels is that from here to, let's say, for example, here you get 10% more coins. And then from here to here, you actually get like 30-40% more coins. So instead of, like, for example, if you would have bought from from 20 cents to 15 cents, or let me see, to 15 cents, you only get like 20%. Over here, all it takes is a few cents difference for you to get 30-40% more coins. So your dollar cost averages are going to be huge, and how much coins you're collecting in the process is going to be even bigger. So just something to think about. I mean, is it a good time to buy? I kind of just showed you what I would do, and what I'm considering, and what I think is going to possibly happen.
Love it.
I mean, you kind of just do what you got to do with that.
And we were kind of looking at, like, so not so much at the liquidity pool numbers, but like the HEX that I really like, that really kind of consumes me when I'm thinking about like potential sell pressure is like if you go to hex.vision and just filter out all the stakes that started before big payday, because those people got in at, lowest price, that was the lowest price and the lowest share rate. And so those stakers are earning at a higher rate than any new staker could possibly earn today. And they got in at a much lower price that's like, hundreds of times lower than what it is now. And they got that like lump sum big payday payout, which every day that goes by, it's larger. And so we were looking at that chart yesterday on stream of like, and trying to piece together how much yield is coming out per month from those stakes. And it's like between, some months it's like in the 50 millions of hex of just yield. And so that means the principal is also, double that effectively. But like there's huge amounts of hex where those people are still in massive gains, and it all settles around the end of the year. So it's kind of like this perfect storm of, end of year coming up, because most of them, because the launch and big payday were in, November 20th through December. Big payday was November 20th, launch was December 3rd. So people just, when they go like incremental, like year stakes, there's like these huge, spikes in the number of stakes that are expiring right around that end of the year period. And so that's, it's kind of like this perfect storm of like, end of a year-long bull run where perhaps, because the last bull run ended, like the all-time high was like this, mid-September of
like around September
last year. And so part of what kind of led to, that initial wave down is, just that end of year sell pressure. Now we've been in a year of sell pressure, and there could be, even more. But what's kind of good about that is that because it's down from where it was, it's like those people selling are, they kind of have like less exit liquidity to get. So maybe they aren't going to sell all of it. And so it's kind of like the low price kind of, while there's a lot coming out, they also know that it's, it's going to be very difficult for them to get all of that, as much value out if they just like dump now. And so, that it's kind of like a dual-edged sword in that sense. But there is a lot of hex, and I think that's what I think that these stake pools. I mean, because we're looking at more the context of like, okay, when is a lot of these coming out? What does that mean for potentially future stake pools? And so because like all that liquid hex, it's that's the key thing that matters, is like what percent of that hex that's ending stake, and especially these old stakes that are large, most earnings possible, etc. Like what percent of that hex just gets restaked? And that's like the big unknown. That'll probably dictate kind of where it goes at this end of the year.
No, these pools are going to be sick, because you guys are. I mean, anybody that participates in these pools are getting it at T-share rates that are lower than they've ever been before, and hex price is clearly going down. I mean, just this week alone, after the ETH merge, it's caused like a pretty decent sell-off, and anybody that's buying up hex right now, myself included, to put into those perps is ultimately, you're gonna benefit from the T-shirts that get acquired, because T-shirts are cheaper in US dollar terms, but they're more expensive in hex terms. So I mean, regardless of the fact, if it keeps going like lower, if it keeps going down in price, the people that are going to be able to buy, like if me coming in with USD says I'm going to put in $500 this week, and prices at 2 cents as opposed to 3 cents, I get more hex. That means more hex can be locked up, which means more T-shirts can be acquired for those pools. So it's a positive thing, man. I mean, and even if you're staking for yourself, you can get more T-shirts just with the same amount of dollars that you have, with price going down. I mean, we have how many more days? You said we're 11 days in, or there's 11 days left?
A little under 11 days left in the mint phase. So
yeah,
guys, if you haven't minted yet, MaximusDAO.com, mint team 1-to-1 with Maxi, and mint into the perpetuals 1-to-1 with Hex. So this might, so with team, this is the only time you can mint team 1-to-1. After this, no more team will ever be created, and actually the supply is going to go down with early unstake penalties. With the perpetuals, likely the only time you'll be able to mint 1-to-1, because every stake that ends, the value, the redemption value determines the new mint rate. So even with base, it'll probably be like 1 hex to 1.12. Yeah.
So
Yeah, like those much like how the t-shirt rate only goes up, the mint rate of these pools only goes up.
Yeah.
And so the next year base will be 1.12. In 3 years, trio is going to be like 1.45. In 7 years, at the next mint rate on Lucky, it's going to be like, I don't even know what, like probably like 1.2 or 1.3, and then Desi's going to be like 1.45. So, or no, Desi's going to be like 4-1. So it's definitely like the like on in terms of like the hex on hex gains per like mint rate. Like it'll never be at this 1-to-1 rate ever again, and that's just because they are going to earn yield over this period of time. And yeah, so it's much like everyone that minted into Maxi, it's almost like minting into Maxi kind of saved a lot of people from the depths of the bear market, because from if you rolled all your hex into Maxi, when that happened, even though the hex price went down, which took the Maxi price down, the lowest that the Maxi US dollar price ever got to was like 6 cents or so. And so from the Maxi holders perspective, it like protected a lot of those people from the bear market. So it's that's kind of the effect of these pools, because there's a chance that they price in some of the future earnings, that the market's pricing in hex that it hasn't earned yet, but it's going to earn. And so I think that these are really strong bear market assets to be allocating into.
Yeah, and like you mentioned too, the fact that like people who are selling off, for example, they don't have as much liquidity to sell off into, or not as much liquidity to sell off into, but their tokens are technically worth less. Even if they wanted to get rid of 50K, for example, or they wanted to liquidate 50K, it's gonna just cost them more hex, and that's more money that gets put into the market, which ultimately needs to get bought back up, which ultimately pushes price down, regardless. And so, I mean, it's just crazy because it's this whole effect between and what you're mentioning, right? Like the people who got in early versus the people who got in late, and all this like this very complex dynamic of when people want to buy, when people want to sell. And yeah, I think honestly, if you're buying dips, especially if they're like 95% off, like if it's a 95% dip, I think you're doing great. And if you're buying tops, just kind of maybe rethink that strategy, rethink that strategy a little bit. Yeah, that's what I would say. I know Hina asked something about like, what would you tell new investors? But yeah, that's what I would tell new investors. Just reconsider when you're buying tops, because I know it gets tempting out here. Yeah, and everybody wants to buy when prices are going up. It's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like,
yeah, it's kind of because it's like that's why the prices are going up, because so many people want to
Exactly.
buy, and then kind of that regret sets in, and people that like procrastinated, and they seeing how much other people are making, and there's kind of that whole psychology to it. And it's funny because like during the bull market, everyone's asking me like, how do I buy, but now it's like the prices are so much better, and people are just like not even asking me. But that's why the prices are low, is because it's not it's
Exactly.
kind of like there's duality to it.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be such a thing where, it needs to make sense. And I set the right expectation. I've onboarded a lot of people, and setting the right expectation is always everything. I'm just like, look, bro, it's not something that's gonna, um, make you rich in 9 months. I like personally for me, I've seen a lot of money in 9 months because I got not lucky, but relatively, I was in a good position, right? Like I got a really nice pool. I got a really nice bull market. Everything happened in 9 months, and for some people, it happens like that, right? Other people, they're waiting 3 years because they bought at 0.0002, and then it took a year and a half to get to 50 cents, right? So it's very different for everybody, but just know that if you're buying the bear market, if you're buying the bottom, you're pretty much straight. Like all you got to do is just hold. You just can't invest more. You can't buy more than what you can, because the only problem you're really going to face when investing in crypto is having to sell your crypto, because that's when you bought too much crypto and you should have kept some liquid capital for like a rainy day, because you need USD for that. So as much as you want to put all your money into crypto, and you want to go all in, which is what a lot of people do. I did that myself personally. um even though you can do that, you got to be very wary of it, because what happens is sometimes you're going to get put in a position where you don't have any money, You don't, and the only option is to sell your crypto, unless you stake it and or for example, or you get a perpetual and you put it in the diamond hands, and you can't touch it, and then you can't really sell anything at all. So then you got to kind of figure it out. But like for me, I staked everything, so everything I owned, was staked. And if I needed money, shit, I was starving, or I needed to figure it out, right? And sometimes you just got to put your back against the wall. Oftentimes, people sell their crypto not realizing that they don't even need to. They just need to get more creative with what they need to do. So it's kind of be considerate of that. Hexlove says, "Is it true that you can buy more T shares if you buy liquid Hedron rather than if you buy liquid Hex?" I'm gonna read that again. Is it true that you can buy more T shares if you buy liquid Hedron rather than if you buy liquid Hex? So I think they're referring to, I think he's referring to like buying them on liquidation auctions, like maybe getting like a cheap T-shirt. I think that would be the only way to maybe buy more T-shirts if you bought
Yeah,
it
like
on,
if you can buy it at a discount,
yeah, if you
then
bought it at a discount. I think that would be one of the ways. So I think it is true. So I would say the answer is yes. If you get really lucky, I think one of your best times to do that is going to be November 14th, if I'm not mistaken, when all of these Ecosa HSI stakes get put into auction. It's going to be a really good day for Hedron. It's going to be a really great day for Ecosa too. And so, just be wary of that. If you have some liquid Hedron and you get really lucky, and out of those 2,000-3,000 stakes coming out on that same day, if you can get, into one auction, let those 5 minutes pass and acquire something for super cheap, then for sure. But one mistake I did make was I bought a HSI stake for like 700,000, no, 700, I think it was like 700 million Hedron.
Oh,
it was not worth 700 million Hedron like a few weeks later.
That's the thing that's so hard, man. That's the one thing I
Yeah.
talk about with HSIs, and I try to I have mixed feelings about, especially with the HSI buybacks, but a lot of T-shares are going to be up on the market, right? But they're all separate stakes. It's not, the beautiful thing about Maximus and the liquidity aspect of Maximus versus the liquidity aspect of an HSI is it's just so much more efficient, man. What the market price is, you see what you can get it for. And with an HSI, it's both the buyer and seller are both trying to figure out what the value of this thing is. And a lot of people, I don't know, it's how do you know what a 15-year stake in year 3, and you minted 25% of your Hedron for it? How much is that worth? It's very hard.
Yeah, you're just speculating, really.
You're speculating.
And it's all based on the asset
exactly
and where it's at. Yeah.
So it's hard. But again, the other part of that though is within that speculation, maybe there's opportunity where you get a crazy discount.
I think there is.
Yeah.
You know where I think the opportunity lies in Hedron, where for example, if you were to stake Ecosa, get Hedron, and then buy it with that Hedron, I think that would make more sense as opposed to you buying the Hedron cash. Because then I don't know, maybe it's just me, I get attached to the dollar value of what I paid for that Hedron. So it cost me $700, or maybe $500 or whatever, let's say hypothetically, right? And then that was 700 million Hedron, but then those 700 million Hedron being worth $500 got me a stake that was worth $1,000, and then my Hedron was then worth $3,000 a few days later. I would kind of be like, damn, should I just have kept the Hedron? Right? That's kind of where you kind of in your mind are but then you also have to think, oh, but wait, what if the Hex then becomes worth more, and that becomes worth more than the Hedron? So it's there's this very big push and pull. I think the cool thing would be if you just staked your Ecosa and then you acquired Hedron and then you just bought it with that, not even thinking about what it can get. You're just saying, I got free Hedron from my Hex, which I didn't have to pay for, which I then got Ecosa with, which I didn't have to pay for, which I then got more Hedron which I bought more Hex with. I think that would be a very easy.
But I only think that the HSIs from auction that are worth buying are going to be the ones that are huge, that it'd be very difficult to yield that much Hedron from the Icosa stakes. You'd have had to start
be very early,
and so it's still because probably just the end result of kind of what it all converges to is that the largest Hedron holders, who are really just the largest, earliest Hex stakers, and maybe the people that bought the dip, the dozen or so people that carved out that dip at the bottom, it's mainly, the large OG Hex people who get a shocking amount of Hedron every day, that, some of which is sold, and that's why the price went so low, early on. But the HSIs are, because they're all solo stakes, it's like the small ones, like over time, there'll be some type of like gas deficit that will, where like they only will get less valuable over time as as it gets closer and more certain about what that gas is, and you become more certain about the earnings and what it's actually worth. And so I think like that's like what gives me kind of this like horrible feeling inside is that there's going to be people that it's like you're going to buy, people are going to buy the Hedgeron auctions that they can afford. And the only HSIs that are going to be like worth it are going to be the larger ones. And the people that are going to get the larger ones are the people that have more of the Hedgeron. And the people that are going to get the scraps are going to be the people that, can only get a little bit of Hedgeron and get those ones. And then it's like those HSIs are the ones that are most likely to be either totally infeasible to end, or like, you're after 15 years, you have to pay back like 14 years of its yield in gas in order to get it. And it's like, okay, well, why didn't you just hold, and also during that same time, it's like, because the Hedron's going to be experiencing just like from that 10x bonus over that 15-year period. But as soon as that's gone, perhaps the Hedron just would have been better to hold. And that's why I feel like with the Maxi stake, the fact that we, the Maxis held till the end, I think we're saving a lot of the Maxi holders kind of from themselves of bidding on these low cost HSIs with that Hedron, because over time, the Hedron inflation goes down. And so I kind of what you said is the Hedron went up faster than the HSI did.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to even be more true for the small HSIs as they go into auction. And so I feel like that just happened to be just the circumstance, because it was the simplest way to build it was to just hold on to the Hedron and then just build that into the redemption at the end. And so I think a lot of people are
I gotta hop in. I love this conversation. I don't want you guys to stop, but I do have to go pick up my girlfriend, so I gotta drop. But thank you so much for having us on, man. It's been such a pleasure, and I hope we do it soon.
Love, bro. Thank you for being on, man. I appreciate your time. Do what you got to do, bro.
All right, bro. Love, man. See ya.
Yeah, we're probably gonna wrap up in a few. We have a couple more questions here.
Cool, man.
And Tonto could definitely help me. I know he has to do some work, but thank you, GoldKey. I appreciate you, bro.
All right, man. Talk soon.
See you, homie. And no, but I do agree with you, bro. And that's something that I did consider as well about Hedron. And just that experience that I had alone already kind of just put me in a way where I was like, okay, let's see how this plays out. But there is something about about Maxi here that they did ask Hex Lavas. He goes, if someone goes all in on Desi as Hex goes up to 50 cents, if Desi is a 2-to-1 premium, does that mean Desi would be $1?
Yeah. So if, depending on how people define like what the premium is, but like if the Deci is worth 2 hex and the hex price is 50 cents, then that would mean that the Deci price is $1. And so, so that's kind of the benefit of buying into, or, minting these pools is that, they're earning the yield, and the premium is partially just the market pricing in the future earnings. And so, you have like a liquid coin that can, has that potential to price in its own future earnings. So yeah, like the effect from the person who minted the Deci's perspective, from their perspective, it's like the hex is worth $1. Kind of how like right now it's like from a Maxi minter's perspective, it's as if the hex price is like whatever it is, like 7 or 8 cents. Whereas like, native hex is 3.5 cents. So it's kind of that same phenomena there with the premium and how it impacts the price.
All right, there you go. And then he has a couple more questions. He goes, where do you see Hedron in 2024 or in 10 years? It is not going away. Please advise. And he says, there's gonna be HSI auctions every 90 days. Do you think HSI auction will fall out of favor with people? I think we can answer both in one.
Yeah, so I don't think Hedron's going away. Like I think Hedron's an awesome coin. I think the HSI, it's just like not, it's cool, but that's all that it is to me. Like it's cool, you can hold it as an NFT, but like the fungibility of holding a hex stake is like the real value proposition. And because it's held as non-fungible and like it's individual, it's like those are two like kind of negatives there. So like I don't think it's a good solution for saleability of stakes. I think Hedron is just good in general, like kind of like how like Dogecoin is like merge mined with Litecoin, where like Litecoin miners are also simultaneously mining Dogecoin. Like I think that's like an awesome emission strategy, and kind of how Hedron is like merge mined with Hex, where like, you know, the Hex stakers, you're also earning this other coin. Like, I think that's like really positive. And because, you know, as the, you know, it's based on the T shares, and over time as the T shares become, you know, more expensive, and there actually is a point down the road where the T shares could become deflationary. I think that's like just a strong pump, you know, pumpamental in general. So like, you know, Hedron, the token, you know, so like Hedron, good, HSIs, Icosa, fine. But I think that the negative externality created by the behavior that Icosa encourages is like horrible. So it's kind of like across the board where you like Hedron, the token, good. You know, HSI is like a mechanism for holding liquid hex stakes. But like, you know, and you know, Icosa, fine, but just the behavior it causes, I think, is horrible. So you know, so I think Hedron will be here, will be around forever. And I think over time it only gets better as these, you know, big bonus stakes age out. You know, like the 10x bonus on the stakes that got in when the T share rate was 10,000 hex, and they got their longer pays better maxed out, and that, so like, and a bunch of hex at the low prices. Like as those age out, I think Hedron only gets better. You know, but the other stuff, I think, you know, maybe even could, like, I think if Hedron had launched without the HSIs and without Icosa, and also without the bonus, it'd probably be even way better. But, you know, that's just the reality of it. And then I think, you know, with so many of these auctions, you know, like if someone's going to sell it at a loss, at least it's the Icosa contract, as opposed to people that like took out the Hedron on their own and are facing their own personal liquidation. So that's, you know, that's probably, that's probably fine. And there's going to be so much for, you know, that there, you know, there may be like a discount, but then that discount may also even be even further, you know, due to like the gas fee discount that you know, because you have to bake in kind of like the whole cost of goods sold in that setting. And if the cost to end it is huge, and especially, you know, as time goes on, and, you know, especially if fees go up, and like, you know, if that's happening at like a bull cycle and the fees in general are higher, then, you know, there could be more, and maybe that's a chance for, you know, the low cost. But like I said earlier, you know, the HSIs that are going to be in demand are going to be the bigger ones, because they are, or probably the medium ones where they're like big enough to be worth it, but also not too big where it's hard to find a future sell or a future buyer. So there's probably a sweet spot in there with the.
Yeah, there definitely is a sweet spot. I think there's gonna be there. It's a very strange relationship it has right now, because you also have a very cheap Hedron, but I think as Hedron becomes more expensive, you're gonna definitely kind of see that relationship change a little bit. And ultimately with Icosa, you know, the fact that you really with both of them, Hedron and Icosa, the fact that they're both tied into a T, like their mint rates are tied into a T share rate, it's only beneficial for both, because, you know, they're both going to be more scarce over time. So you do have that kind of pumpamental factor in there. So as standalone products, they're great. But because they are, like you said, because they are tied to the HSI burning or the HSI auction, which is what essentially has to burn Hedron for Hedron to be deflationary, that is where it can kind of get a little spotty, and where, you know, ultimately it can happen. Like someone could just for whatever reason say like, damn, I need to get rid of this HSI. I can't wait. I can't afford it. I'm gonna sell it for Icosa. And there's an option, right? Like, for example, if someone doesn't want to be able to pay for the end stake where it's too expensive or whatnot, or they can sell it for Icosa, they get their values worth in Icosa, and then boom. You know?
Yeah, but the only problem there is that if everyone is is like having to like, almost like Icosa is like the buyer of last resort, if everyone is selling that to extract the value from Icosa, then like the value of the Icosa goes down, which like even further decreases that like minimum threshold. Because like best case scenario for an HSI holder is that the Icosa value is high. That means not many sellers. But if like the Icosa is the only way to kind of salvage the value out of that, or just, you know, squeeze, you know, there's the Hedron that they produce, but also the Icosa, it like can, it's like a fraction of people, you know, some portion of people are going to be able to exercise that and reclaim that value, but then the act of those people doing it makes it so that even less people can after them. And so it's kind of, you know, like, you know, the hex price going up kind of solves all of it, you know, but the, you know, like that which could happen, you know, it's seasonal, right? You know, these bull and bear cycles happen, and so the people that where the timing of it ends up to where they're worth earning are great, but then, you know, that's HEX that's now being sold, and then, you know, to cover the gas, and then that kind of can turn the market, and then the next, you know, quarter of sellers, like they're kind of stuck, and then so, you know, it's kind of all there. And so luckily, like, and I've kind of, you know, beaten the drum on this topic, but like all these stakes that are just like flooding the network, like it literally, in Richard's words, in a like in an old interview, when he's talking about why bigger pays better, he's like, that's to incentivize people to not flood the market with unnecessary small stakes. And so that's kind of what's being the situation that's being created, and the Maximus products directly profit from that, because while everyone else is going to be struggling to pay the gas, we'll have no problem paying it as a unit, you know, as a many thousand member team. And then all the people that can't afford it, those people are no longer competing with you as a seller. And like, you know, say they have to wait like a year to end their stake until like the gas fees go down, then they've bled out like a year into all the stakes that can't afford it. And so from the late end stake penalty. And so it's like we directly benefit from this situation. It's almost like I would have never thought to like that someone would do like build something that like so directly benefited this. Like, you know, it's like, to me, the gas fee was a problem. And then there's like this like adjacent product that it's like we benefit a lot from the Hedron in general, just from Maxi and with, you know, from Team and that whole. So it's like there's these things kind of building adjacent where like on one hand it's like competing product, but on the other hand it just like it just injects so much value in like numerous ways. So it's kind of this weird thing where it's like, how did we?
It's a strange relationship. It's like a symbiotic relationship in a way. Well, not really symbiotic, but
it's like a kind of a one-way symbiotic where like because I mean we benefit a lot from it, and I can't really think of how they benefit from
well,
us.
I guess with the amount of people that staked for the I mean that sacrifice for to get the WhatsApp NFTs, I guess now they hold your token, so in a way they kind of do benefit.
So that's how they had to acquire. So, you know, selling that, you know, it didn't really come at their expense to acquire that. You know, so, you know, and I'm happy that you know that they're in possession of that. You know, it's in some ways better.
We got to see what they do with it. No, really cool points, man.
Yeah, I wonder what they like. Do they mint Team? Do they just dump the price of Maxi? Do they?
You know, it's kind of like how I said, bro. It's like, what do you do with that? Like, if you have a lot of financial energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because really, financial energy almost becomes like a tool for centralization in a way. Because it's not just money. Like, yeah, if you sell it, you have a lot of money, but if you sacrifice it, let's say, for example, if this kind of whole thing of sacrificing becomes really popular, then you become like a majority equity holder in something, a new project that launches, and you essentially keep it more to yourself than everything else. I mean, probably not more than, you know, like how the OA did with Pulse Chain and PulseX and whatnot, but in it, to a certain extent, if you have that buying power, you can do it. So who knows? I mean, honestly, like, for example, if Maximus, or not Maximus, excuse me, if Hedron was like a brand, right? And let's say there was like, you know how I think it's BlackRock is trying to be like a massive like validator for Ethereum. All right, well, imagine if, you know, Hedron was able to acquire a lot of wealth and they were able to become a massive validator for another blockchain or something like that, right? Like, kind of something to consider.
They could,
because they. And
I wouldn't be surprised if he does it for Pulse Chain, because I'm sure that they have a lot of Pulse Chain, and I know that he's really into that kind of like, you know, world of you know, kind of like nodes and stuff, and, you know, just and so I think he's definitely the type that is into that, and that's probably a good thing that, you know, that, and, you know, considering, and well, kind of the interesting part was, you know, how he burnt 1 million Maxi. When during that whole thing, you know, it's like, was that a, like, you know, because he has like a history of burning tokens, like as like either a symbol of benevolence and just to get people to, I think it's like a marketing strategy, and I think maybe that's what, you know, because he burnt 1 million, but then in the following days got more than 1 million, and so maybe he thought it would, you know, and it worked if that was the plan, to do that, but the most of the Maxi that ended up there, it actually came from a very small number of addresses. It's basically like the top handful of addresses in Maxi who they bought, or they minted, but then also continued to buy. It kind of just consolidated there. So it's like like the end result after the Hedron launch was that like we had a bunch of holders that were in like the 4 to, I think the maximum was like 10 million range. And then afterwards it was like 26 million in the Hedron deployer. And then the next largest was like 3 or 4 million. And so there was like kind of a big kind of like consolidation of some of the top holders into that Watsa thing. And so who knows if they're related.
And Team is up there too now, right? Team just became number 1.
Yeah, so Team is now at like, I don't even know how many are in there. I haven't
Let's
looked.
check real quick. I mean, we should do a last little check before we tune off.
Yeah.
Let's see real fast. Let's go in here. HEX resources. Boom. Oh shit! I almost closed the stream.
39.3 million Team minted. And so so Team is the number 1. Then after the whole break, like after the minting phase ends, and then there's that 20% burn, the 30% rebate, and then the mystery box. So then at current one, the Hedron deployer would be larger than the mystery box. But if it grows to, what would that be, like 52 million? So 12 million more Maxi would put them above it. Or if, the Hedron deployer minted the Maxi into Team, then it would like decrease theirs while increasing the
I don't think they're getting any more for whatever reason. The what's that NFT thing was only 14 days, so they're pretty much donezo. I mean, I think you guys got the top spot for now.
I wonder what if Hedron deployer has more T-share exposure through Maxi or through HSIs.
That's cool. That's pretty interesting. That's one thing.
And because the Hedron, they got like a copy of all the bonuses, and I know they've burnt a lot, but the Hedron deployer is probably going to end up with a bunch as these auctions start to continue. But I wonder what that. I haven't done any of the analysis to really see how much HSIs that they have, but
yeah, I like Hedron, but I gotta like personally I have, once again, it goes deeper into like my full love for DeFi in the sense of, yes, like cash flowing and stuff, but I love just things that are going to make me cash flow and also give me some type of benefit. Like I love HEX. I love Maximus because it's like HEX, but just with certain features that add value to my HEX. And, beyond that, it's like Hedron is like a completely different thing in a way also, because of pretty much what we just mentioned. So not that it's not as valuable, but it doesn't get my attention as much as like stacking Maxi does, or stuff like that. Personally, this is just me. But Dip Catcher, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. It's been 2.5 hours, just a lot of value. I think it's one of the best streams I think I've ever had, honestly.
Awesome.
They haven't been many, but definitely all of them have been great with some really great people. So a lot of value going in from both sides, and thanks to a GoldKey also, who's not here, but shout out to him. And thanks to you guys in the chat, man, who stayed with us the entire night and just asked a bunch of questions. We appreciate you guys. We would be talking to ourselves if it wasn't for you guys. So
man. Thanks for you're definitely. I love how the content you made about all this stuff. Like always in the chats and just
Oh, thanks, man.
Creating good discussion. And literally even yesterday, like your question kicked off this whole thing that was like such an awesome segment of the stream. And yeah, man, I really appreciate. I think from the first time we spoke in that, I think it was a Twitter space once when we first kind of got to speaking. And man, I really appreciate you. It's awesome.
I appreciate you guys, bro. You guys are bringing a lot of value. No, definitely, bro. I wanted to go to Vegas, but unfortunately, bro, I wasn't able to make it. Just like financially, I was like, let me just save this money, bro. You know what I mean? Like, hold it down, invest, keep it going. I'm not a multimillionaire yet, so I want to keep it like. I'm gonna keep it reserved for now.
Yeah, we only went because people paid for it, but
okay. Oh, you guys were sponsored. No, I mean that's fine, bro. I mean, well deserved, bro. You guys have one of the best projects in the game, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, man. Cool, dude. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for having me on.
For sure. Thank you guys. And I don't have an outro, but cool outro. Love you guys. Be easy.
All right.
Take care, everybody.